calm, before the storm, before the lonely nights, before we strike like lightning, explode like dynamite. There's only room to say I loved you for me. I loved you enough for the both of us to pack up and leave. Save us from all these catastrophes. Cross the line. I feel it shaking and I feel it shifting 1,000 times, drifting 1,000 miles and miles apart. Who's gonna be kissing on your body? Who's gonna be all up in your bed? Who's gonna be giving you your flowers?
Good morning.
Can't get these stars on my head. Acting out
hey, Karma.
I feel we way out of options. If it ain't me, then it's no one.
I ain't gonna cap. I miss y'all.
Ooh, I need some time to myself. Ooh, away from you and everybody.
I gotta go use the restroom. I'll be back, y'all.
Don't got no rules, if but some maze. There's only room to say I loved you for me. I love you enough for the both of us to pack up and leave. Save us from all these catastrophes. Cross the line. I feel it shaking and I feel it shifting 1,000 times, drifting 1,000 miles and miles apart.
Dang, I missed one day. That's how y'all do me? One day. Y'all better hurry up and get in here. Get in here, get in here, get in here.
Sitting on the floor, caught up in a ball, looking in the mirror, then I feel so fucking small. Then I grab my makeup bag and shuffle it around. My head is in the clouds, self-esteem is on the ground. I've been so tired, even though I feel this way. Gotta do what the girls do, best cover up the pain. Step one, rubbing my foundation on. 2, concealer to hide it from you. 3, I hope they can't read between the lines. Gotta blind them, touch a highlighter. 4, I put on my blush and a brush 'cause I'm flushed. Tell myself you're more than enough, and fuck my flaws. No, I'll be strong. That's how I put my brave face on. Up and down for no reason, spring and falling like seasons. When I step up on the carpet, cameras on me fake cheesing. Got my hair and my heart up, got my lipstick and my guard up. Pretty good fucking actress, I know how to play my part up. Tired, and whenever I get this way, gotta do what the girls do, best cover up the space. Step 1, rubbing my foundation on. 2, concealer to hide it from you. 3, I hope they can't read between the lines. Gotta blind them, touch a highlighter. 4, I put on my blush and a brush 'cause I'm flushed. flushed. Tell myself you're more than enough and fuck my flaws. No, I'll be strong. That's how I put my brave face on. I just wanna make me feel good.
T, good morning.
I just wanna feel good. 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 Step one, rubbing my foundation on. Two, conceal it, I hide it from you.
When I clocked out them people job yesterday, I had 55 and a half hours on the clock yesterday. Good morning, Skype. So I apologize that I missed Wednesday, but your girl been getting the bag. You know what I'm saying? So I am off today and tomorrow. So we are going to eat up this chapter. This chapter is 3 hours long, so it kind of works. So we'll do half today and then half tomorrow, and then we'll start off Wednesday fresh on chapter 4. So even though I missed Wednesday, again, I apologize, but at least we'll be caught up. I'm gonna bring people up in a second. I see you, Ron. I'm gonna play a couple more music. Couple more music. I'm playing a couple more songs till the regulars get in here. Okay, and then I'll let y'all up. I put on my blush in a rush cause I'm flushed. Tell myself you're more than enough and fuck what you gotta say to me? Hold on. Hold on, cause I just got my fairy stick going, so hold on. Not Mad Facts brought his box booty ass up in here. I'll let you up in a minute. Let me just get this song out.
We went from amazing to amazing. Yeah, I settled for ways that was a phase. Oh yeah, yeah. If a spade is what it is. I was hoping for some that don't exist. You let me wish and you can mean what you say, but you're so good at games. It's calculated when you claim you would change, but you just did the same. I swear that boy you do the most and then you love me back. Hiding in your coat, but I don't move like that. Why do you play with my mind just to drive me mad? Boy, you do the most and then you love me bad. Love me bad. Love me bad.
Where nephew at? Nephew better get his ass
in here. Love me bad. Why you so aggravated on the phone? If I'm so hard to be, we'll be alone. Oh yeah, yeah. You're projecting your insecurities. Everything's all about you, don't put it on me. You had me wishing you could mean what you say, but you're so good at games. It's calculated when you claim you would change, but you just do the same. I swear that boy you do the most and then you love me back. Hiding in your coat, but I don't move like that. Why do you play with my mind just to drive me mad? Boy you do the most and then you love me back. Love me.
Good morning.
What it is. You got that song out your system yet?
It's out. What's going on?
Boy, I was sitting there waiting on your butt that other day, boy. And I was like, are you serious?
I am sorry. I've been getting to this bag, and I'm like, they'll understand. It's just one day.
I ain't mad at you for pouring out that bag, but hell, you could text me or something.
I did. I put the flyer out. But then I was like, dang, the next day came, I was like, damn, I should have did it, because now we got to wait till Saturday. This ain't right.
And I lost sleep behind you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm
I'm
gonna let
so
you make it up.
yeah.
Just don't put no man voice up here this time.
Man. Oh man. I'll give it a few more minutes and then we're gonna start.
I just let this girl look. I just let this girl live. Her name was Queen, and they got in a topic about a relationship, and she was married some guy from another country, some shit. And they was up there. Had one girl was smoking a damn weed, some weed joints, and had a shirt off. This, that, and third. Guy had his
Oh
shirt off.
wow.
Look, I kept telling her, and she didn't want it. How about she got kicked off? So I signed her a text and let her know. I said that's why what happened was it happened to you, big dumbass. I kept calling. She kept acting like she was ignoring me, and I know damn well she heard me.
Yeah, well, she probably thought you was gonna bother her.
Well, she'll get when she read that text.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't like following ignorant people.
I mean, if they doing that at what's this, Saturday morning? Come on now.
This about an hour ago.
Oh yeah, no. That's not my type of crowd.
Yeah, I got the hell out of it. I said, I'm stop following them. We ain't got to worry about it.
Alright. Let me send it to Kush one more time. Let me send it to both of his pages.
Yeah, you chasing that bag, let me get $1.
You the one with the money.
I just said $1. So I give me a nab or something.
Hey Puna, we're gonna start in a minute. I'm just waiting for everybody to get up in here because I know it. Every time I hit play,
Somebody come up.
they come in. They come in.
Hey, what was the name? What's the name of the book? I know you
Afro
said it.
pessimism.
Say that again.
Afro pessimism.
Oh, okay.
So let me give you the definition as the author describes it. You just waking and baking. I feel that. I feel that. It's Saturday. Listen, when I get off with y'all, I'm gonna go back in my bed. Okay, it's Saturday.
I ain't mad at you.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm be rubbing my feet together, and then
You gonna be rubbing them hard crusty feet together.
man, my feet are not crusty.
It's just
Are edible.
I'll see if you caught that or not.
My feet are edible, and I have Egyptian cotton sheets. You just can't come in there with rough skin.
I know that's right.
Mm-mm. All right, so he says Afro-pessimism is less of a theory and more of a mythery, a critical project that, by deploying blackness as a lens of interpretation, interrogates the unspoken, assumptive logic of Marxism, post-colonialism, psychoanalysis, and feminine through the theoretic consideration of their properties and assumptive logic. Wow, I didn't realize the paragraph was this long.
That's gonna help. I'll go ahead and say.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think T up in here. She saw me the request.
Yeah, T here. She gonna come up in a minute.
She up in the building. Yeah, yeah.
W Mars. All right. I'm gonna just go ahead and start it.
So you gonna run an hour today?
Hour and a half.
And then look, then I'm gonna roll right over myself.
See? Well, all I gotta do, I gotta go to the grocery store, but I'll do that tomorrow. Make me some
You
crabs.
better get in there and get before everybody start picking over everything. You be getting leftovers.
What?
You know they put all that fresh stuff out on Saturdays.
Cause you made it. I knew it. I knew as soon as I put up the book, you was gonna come.
What it
Hey,
is,
on.
T?
What's up, Ron? Hey, Kush. Hey, everybody.
Good
Look, get that
morning.
frog out your voice.
Shit. Yeah, I got 35 minutes left at this charging station. I'm going to be quiet today. I'm tired. I ain't going to even lie.
Ooh,
Oh, you sitting at the charging station?
Mm-hmm.
That's a damn shame.
No, it ain't.
Well, it's good and bad because you could be home in your bed right about now, but you got to sit at the charging station.
I'm about to start working here about 6:30, so.
Oh, you work there where it's at?
Huh?
You work there where it's at?
I don't know what that means.
I
yeah.
said you work there where the charging station is at.
No, my dear.
Oh no, she just charging.
Mm. Mm.
She just charging.
Well, I was going to let you have that. Yeah, that's where I'm at, Ron.
You see, I ain't laughing with you now.
Look, I'm tired and I don't feel like over it, under and explaining this shit, nigga. I may have had too much to drink when I was getting my hair done yesterday, and I'm
Yeah,
tired this
that's what
morning.
happened. Where'd Kush go? I see he's still in here. I hope.
Mm-hmm. How are you, Marlon?
I'm tired.
I can't look. I don't know about this Saturday morning shit.
Come on now,
Listen,
you
let's
still
go ahead and
young.
just get started and make it worth our while. Kush, whenever you ready, nephew, you come back up. All right. And where's Chi Chi at? It's only afternoon over there.
Say no excuse.
Yeah. The
It should be already up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they've been up. What are you talking about?
Yeah, they halfway through their day.
Yeah,
Halfway through
I'm going for from A Car Road to A Car Song right now.
All right, let's get to it, y'all.
Let's do it.
I'll go back to bed.
All right.
Part 1. This is a story I've never told before, not to my brother or to my sisters, not even to the women I've partnered with and married. Nearly 40 years came and went before I could bring myself to say what happened to Stella, her daughter Malika, and me. To go into it, I've always thought, would only cause embarrassment for me, a sudden need to be elsewhere, which is the natural response to a confession. Even now, I admit, the story makes me squirm, living with the shame of wanting out when I thought I could die. For years, I've had to live with it, feeling this shame, trying to push it away. There have been times when I've tried to write about it in hopes that, through this act of remembrance, putting events down on paper, I could relieve the pressure on my conscience. Courage, I seem to think, comes to revolutionaries in finite quantities, like an inheritance that you stash away, let it earn interest, and draw down on when the day of reckoning arrives. It was a comforting theory. It offered hope and grace to a fool. I believed that when it was time for the get down, I would face the man like BLA soldier Asada Shakur faced the man on the New Jersey Turnpike when the state troopers shot her in the chest. That I would get busy like Jonathan P. Jackson got busy at the courthouse in Marin County, California. Asada Shakur is a Black Liberation Army member the BLA liberated from prison in 1979. She was granted political asylum in Cuba. Since her escape, Shakur's life has been depicted in songs, documentaries, and various literary works. If the stakes ever became high enough, if the revolution required my sacrifice, I would simply tap a secret reservoir of courage that had been accumulating inside me from the age of 12 when I read Eldridge Cleaver's Soul on Ice and when my junior high and high school teachers were the doppelgangers of the defendants in political trials like the Chicago 8 and the Panther 21. Stella happened to be one of those doubles. We were together almost 10 years, though we never married. She was 38 when we met. I was 22. I thought it all started when I met Stella at the end of March 1978, just a week after Dartmouth College sent me home for leading Black students in a campaign in solidarity with the people who made the food and cleaned the toilets and lived outside of town. Apparently, some frat boys had complained to the administration that the people from the Appalachian Trail had facial and other deformities brought on by what some Dartmouth fraternity brothers called hillbilly inbreeding. Seeing those people from the Appalachian Trail eating in the same room with them gave them indigestion, the letter claimed. The administration responded by ruling that the service workers in Thayer Dining Hall and the buildings and grounds workers must, from that moment on, eat during off-peak hours and only in antechambers of the dining room that would be set aside for them and them alone. I lobbied the nearly 300 Black students on campus. This was a fascist decree, I argued, and we had to take action. But many others pointed out that the workers who came from nearby backwater towns like Lebanon, New Hampshire, and many two-store and one-saloon towns skirting the mountains flew the Confederate flag in some of the bars and yelled "nigger" from speeding pickups when they drove past us. Once, there were 3 of us lost in the countryside in a time when not even Dick Tracy had GPS. We drove past low-roofed houses ranged along a forest road like matchsticks spilled on the floor. Every 4th or 5th car was a rusted carcass with cinder block wheels. I was startled by the lack of hatred in the eyes of the children who stared at us as we drove by. When I turned in my seat and looked back at them, they were still staring, as though waiting for God to help them name what they had just seen. In the end, the Afro-American Society voted to launch a civil disobedience campaign aimed at forcing the administration to rescind its decree. During the campaign, I was arrested and jailed. A dean waited for me outside the Hanover, New Hampshire courthouse. He handed me a 2-page, single-spaced charge sheet. I told him the town had dropped all charges. He implored me to read the letter. Your troubles with the town have just ended, but your troubles with Dartmouth College have just begun.
Ooh.
2 years prior, the FBI had tracked me to Trinidad. Like most intelligence files, by the time they are declassified, mine is riddled with redactions like sprigs of buckshot etched on the flank of a deer. The name of the agent who tailed me to Trinidad in the winter of 1976, the winter of my sophomore year at Dartmouth College, has been redacted. Nor did he or she seem interested in what the not quite 20-year-old young man he or she shadowed was studying. At the University of the West Indies, he studied Caribbean theater. He did field research on Rada, a major family of Loa spirits in Trinidad's incarnation of the West African religion Voodoo. His 3rd course was an independent study he designed himself, a 50-page thesis paper he wrote on his experience as a participant researcher of the Communist Party in Trinidad. The FBI file referenced none of this. During his stay in Trinidad, Wilderson was in contact with a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Puerto Rican Solidarity Committee, and he promised that individual he would attempt to make contacts in the United States for that organization to obtain literature for it and to attempt to procure financial aid. Wilderson allegedly claimed to be a member of an unspecified revolutionary group in the United States. He was born April 11th, 1956, in the United States, is a student at Dartmouth College, possesses U.S. passport number F2316717, and his mailing address is Hinman Box 3983, Dartmouth College, Hanover, New Hampshire, 03755. The report was sent from Legate Caracas, the legal attaché in Venezuela, to Clarence M. Kelly, Hoover's successor as director of the FBI. According to official propaganda, the FBI legal attaché works with the law enforcement and security agencies in their host country to coordinate investigations of interest to both countries. The role of legal attachés is primarily one of coordination, as they do not conduct foreign intelligence gathering or counterintelligence investigations. No explanation is given as to why the legate of the FBI in Venezuela was running an asset in Trinidad to spy on an American student, or what the nature of the joint operation between the U.S. and the host country, Trinidad or Venezuela, might be. The report begins. The confidential source abroad mentioned in this memorandum is, the redaction is nearly 2 lines long. In other words, more than a name is being withheld. It continues, blank requested to be informed if Wilderson has come to the attention in the past for political extremist activities in the United States. Then, the Bureau and the Boston office are requested to advise if Wilderson has come to prior attention in connection with security activities. This, however, is not the story I had never been able to tell. That story I'm going to tell you now, but this FBI report complicates that story. It corrupts the causal links that had helped me make sense of the violence that Stella and I were subjected to 4 years after I returned from Trinidad, 2 years after Dartmouth College had kicked me out for leading a civil disobedience campaign on behalf of workers who were white and, to our Black and lonely student minds, unrepentant racists. The FBI file came in the middle of writing this chapter. It corrupted the causal logic of the events that make my hand quiver as I scratch these words with my pen. Before the file arrived, I thought that at last I can chart a point-to-point pilgrim's progress of the chain of events that drove Stella and me and Malika, her young daughter, from our home. Events that left us no alternative but to send Malika away to live with relatives for her own safety. Events that drove Stella and me from the state of Minnesota when we ran out of friends and sanctuaries. The FBI file came when I was finally steadfast in my conviction that what happened to us had to do with Stella's past, not hers and mine. I even blamed the break-in at my studio apartment by 2 white men who wanted nothing of value as collateral heat from Stella's lawsuit against the government. Part 2. It's a month before I turn 24, and I've stolen my parents' car. They're in Moscow, Mom and Dad, or Peking, or maybe they're in Bremen or Belize, a 2-month tour studying the pitfalls of Soviet mental health clinics, 3 weeks of consulting with Chinese special education administrators, a Ford Foundation study of German urban renewal, or a rescue mission for American students who smoked too much dope and were bounced into jail in Belize. I don't know, because I don't live with them anymore. My 14-year-old brother gave me the details, but all that registered was the fact that their car was in the garage. 2 years prior, in March 1978, I was, as mentioned, kicked out of Dartmouth College for leading an act of civil disobedience. It was the end of winter quarter in my senior year, and I was 3 classes shy of my degree. To Stella, or whoever else asked, I wore indefinite suspension from Dartmouth College, like a combat medal. But no one knows how much I cried on that Greyhound back to Minneapolis. Before I left the room of the tribunal, with my pink slip giving me 48 hours to pack my dorm room and leave Hanover, the chair of the committee, a dean, acknowledged that the punishment was harsh, but, he explained, a team of psychologists had been evaluating me since I arrived at Dartmouth. I'd had 4 years, these phantoms of therapy, whom I had never met, concluded, to inculcate the esprit de corps of an Ivy League institution, the dean's exact words, and the words, no doubt, of the psychologists. For 4 years, I'd been under psychiatric care without ever meeting my caregivers. In this, they were one with the FBI asset who had tracked me to Trinidad and reported to Boston and Caracas. All day, all night, angels watching over me. Part 3. Stella had changed from the woman she was 9 years prior when I saw her at the Armory on the University of Minnesota's campus. I was almost 15. She had been 31 for 3 months. It was March 1971, the same month and year as the break-in at the FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania, that would soon blow the lid off COINTELPRO. On that morning, William Calley was convicted for the massacre of nearly 500 Vietnamese civilians by Company C in the village of My Lai. The massacre was in the forefront of Stella's mind as she stood by a bus and told anxious inductees they'd returned from Vietnam wearing the tucked sleeve of a one-armed boy. Richard Nixon took reassuringly to the airwaves. American troops are now in a defensive position. The offensive activities of search and destroy are now being undertaken by the South Vietnamese. The bombing of Cambodia was still underway, and I was a shoplifter in Dinkytown, 2 blocks away from the campus of the University of Minnesota. The cold front had quickly crumbled, and temperatures rose from the 50s to as high as 70 degrees. There was no ice or slush on the sidewalks. My friend, Robert Stevenson Stone, and I boosted rock albums and sold them to the hippies at cut-rate prices. With the pavements dry, we could outrun any cashier in Dinkytown. The E Pluribus Funk albums by Grand Funk Railroad, I recall, were completely round and covered with a silver-like film to resemble a large coin. The backside of the cover of this album included a picture of Shea Stadium. To celebrate Grand Funk Railroad beating the Beatles' Shea Stadium attendance record by selling out in just 72 hours. I stole 3 of them from a record store in Dinkytown, near a coffee shop where Bob Dylan used to play. Dinkytown was not a town or even a neighborhood, but simply 2 blocks of shops and eateries at the edge of the University of Minnesota. Our high school consisted of 2 buildings, one at each end of Dinkytown. Tucked behind the main gate of the university was Pike Hall, which had been the university lab school for the children of professors. At the other end of Dinkytown was an uninspired brick building that had been Marshall Public High School for white working-class kids. The 2 schools merged in 1968 in a social experiment financed in large part by funds from LBJ's Great Society initiatives. The children of liberal mandarins were made to mingle with the children of flour mill and railway workers, and to give the experiment demographic integrity, Native Americans were bussed in from the south side and blacks were bussed in from the north side to the tune of 4% and 9 or 10%, respectively. On my way to the record store, where 5-finger discounts awaited, I walked through Dinkytown with my face turned triumphantly up to the first real warmth of sun. Bob Stone was long and lanky, sort of like Al Green on stilts. We had been the same height when we started the 9th grade, but over the Christmas break, he grew like a plant in time-lapse photography. I was jealous of his height, so I told myself I had something better, a leather jacket with gold bars and felt stars for my 3 sports, football, ski jumping, and track and field, none of which Bob participated in because, though he could run, he wasn't athletic. I told Bob to boost only E Pluribus Funk albums. He said we could get more money for some Hendrix LPs. Band of Gypsies won't fit under your shirt, I protested. But Bob wouldn't listen. He damn near got us busted. We always entered the record store separately, and we each had our inherent diversions to offer. The clerks would look up and see my black face. I didn't have to look at them to feel the way their eyes narrowed on my face and my hair. A moment later, I could feel their gaze settle serenely on my leather jacket. Sports keeps him out of trouble. Bob wasn't so lucky. He lived in the projects and he didn't have a sport, whereas I lived in a mansion and had a sport for each season. So he didn't have a leather jacket, and the windbreaker his mother had not replaced since 7th grade looked like a nylon t-shirt. He went in first. I normally came in second. From the window on the street, I watched the clerk watch Bob's every move. When I arrived, he focused on me. In the interstice of time, when he would decide if I was a good black or just a black, Bob would make his play and slip an album or 2 under his windbreaker. I first saw Stella the same day Bob went off script and switched from Grand Funk Railroad to Jimi Hendrix. We'd been in the store 5 or 6 minutes. The clerk went back to reading Ramparts, that countercultural left-wing magazine of the period, and looking up once or twice to watch Bob, who had his back to him as he fingered a crate of albums at the far end of the store. I had 3 E Pluribus Funk albums lined against my ribs and still had room for 2 more. I walked to the counter to buy some zigzag rolling papers, hoping Bob could scram while I paid. But the dude at the till was a task stacker. He counted my change with one eye and peered over my shoulder with the other. It would have been a groove if not for the pointed breasts Bob had poking through his windbreaker, breasts he didn't have when he came in. Watch the counter, the man told me as he chased Bob out the store and down the block in the direction of campus. The long, flaxen-haired cashier came back winded and sweaty, his cheeks the color of flamingos. You know him? I shook my head. Boosting ain't a hip thing, my brother. We're one tribe, man, the clerk said to me, and he thanked me for watching the cash register. Bob and I met 6 blocks away at the ROTC Armory on campus, a sandy brick fortress with ramparts at each end like rooks on a chessboard. 3 chartered buses faced southeast on University Avenue in front of the Armory. 5 white men and 3 white women sat in the street, their backs to the bumper of the lead bus. They smoked cigarettes. They held 2 fingers up in the air. A crowd gathered along the sides of the buses. Bob said we should offload our gear before the pigs came and vamped. Get they cash, man, before they get their heads busted. Carbon monoxide puttered from the quiet tailpipe of one idling bus. A line of inductees filed down the steps of the Armory, and the crowd of protesters began to chant beneath a salmon-colored sky. She was hard to miss, Stella. There weren't many black men among the protesters, and she was the only black woman. She was in front and down the steps, close to the buses. The draftees were all down the stairs now. Bob and I climbed the stairs and looked down. It was the perfect place to be in case 5-0 vamped with their nightsticks. They would bust the protesters' heads by the buses, not ours, as long as we stood on higher ground. Hell no, we won't go. We won't fight for Texaco, yelled the crowd. Not Stella. She spoke to each inductee individually as they got on the bus. She asked them if they had a loved one she could contact if they died. She told another one, "The people you kill over there will always be in your head." An easy wind rustled the trees. A pair of Bose 901 speakers in the window of a frat house across the street was playing "The Weight, Take the Load Off Fanny." The lead singer's voice was high as a lusty wildcat, as stern as a southern preacher, as depleted as a rebel soldier going back to Turkey Scratch, Arkansas, a dirt farmer at the end of his day. The music kite whistled over the crowd of protesters and the line of young, vacant faces filing onto the buses. Stella thrust a life photograph of Lieutenant Kelly up to them as they passed. I thought she was bulletproof. "You're better than this," she told them. A sergeant snatched the photograph from Stella. He tore it to shreds. "Tell them," she said, pointing to the men looking out the windows. "Turn around and tell them they'll come back with their sanity as well as their arms and legs." Bob stood next to me on the top step of the armory. He noticed how I marveled at her. "That's too much woman for you," Bob said. "The hell you say? And look how she's performing for these hippies." "They aren't hippies. They're SDS. Look, man, a couple of our teachers are there." Our school was a lab school. One building was on campus, and the other building was on the other side of Dinkytown. Some of our teachers were graduate students doing their PhDs in education. "The left and the hippies are on different tips. Do you actually read the Ramparts magazines I give you?" "They're all the white unwashed to me, and she's playing to them." I slipped the 3 albums out from under my jacket and said, "We're playing to the white unwashed, aren't we? We're getting paid. She's getting used. The war's not a race thing. It's a class issue. It affects us all." "I'm just saying I know her type." "What type is that?" "The type who into white boys." "Not like it matters to you, the way you came up." "How did I come up?" "Forget it, Frank." "No, tell me. And which is it? She's too much woman for me, or we're the same kind of Oreo?" "Go for what you know, Frank. She could burp you at night before you go to sleep." As it happened, Stella, during my high school and college years, worked as a nurse until she broke her back. It never healed well enough for her to go back to nursing, so she went to work as an administrator in the College of Education, where my father was a dean during the Vietnam War. She managed the placement and affairs of graduate students who worked as teachers at the experimental lab high school that Bob and I attended on campus. But in 1978, when we became lovers, she worked as an aide for elementary school teachers and collected welfare to cover the gap.
I don't like how he said that.
After that first meeting, or rather sighting, at the armory, 7 years would pass until we met again. And the 7 years from the age of 15 to the age of 22 were longer in my mind than the 7 years she traveled from 31 to 38, which is to say, less time and fewer memories had passed in those years for Stella than they had for me. I had gone from 9th grade to the end of my senior year in college. Unlike me, she grew but did not grow up in those years. So when she saw me again at a branch of the library near her house, in faded khaki pants tucked into fry boots, an army surplus trench coat draped across the chair I wasn't using, and my hair cornrowed in neat lines along my scalp, she recognized me immediately. But I didn't know where I'd seen this beautiful woman with her wide-eyed daughter before. The next day, I hitchhiked from Minneapolis to Columbus, Ohio. After a month, I came back to Minneapolis and looked her up. By the end of the summer, we were in love. We baked soufflés in her large cast-iron skillet. In the evening, after supper, when her daughter Malika went to bed, we would sit on her front porch and watch the sun redden. I would read to her from a novel I was writing, or she'd teach me how to listen to Miles. The long pauses between notes, Stella said, just under the music. Miles made silence part of his music. Small clusters of intention without sound, she said. She made me feel comfortable enough to read my fledgling prose to her. She closed her eyes as she listened. So much woe in your voice, she said. You're the Prince of Darkness. You were born on a Wednesday, am I right? Two bolts of silver gray etched themselves on the front of her natural hair like low sparks of lightning rising above her eyes. Heads turned to watch her when she entered a room, and I felt a surge of manhood when they looked from her to me. That's right, people. She's with me. At a distance, folks on campus would take her for Angela Davis, and I was honored as if through osmosis. But even when the mirage had melted, they drank of her singular beauty, for even in leather sandals she was tall for a woman. She didn't powder her face or rouge her lips. She owed her flawless skin to the fact that she ate organically long before it was the fashion, and that she had no truck with sugar. When I first saw those two lightning bolts in her hair, I thought she could take down the world. Some folks called her a troublemaker. I saw a Black woman who stood up for herself and anyone else who was being abused. When she sat in her porch chair and watched people come and go across the courtyard of the apartment complex where she lived, she smoked a corncob pipe without ever lighting it, as my father had done when I was a kid. And it looked just like the one I saw my great-grandmother smoke when I was 12 years old, the one and only time I saw her. In fact, Stella had the same cleft at the bridge of her nose that I see on Grandma Harper when I conjure her. It chiseled both women's gaze. Stella would bring her flute to hear Frank West long after he left Count Basie's band. The club was small and half the people weren't listening to the music. So when the band took a break, Stella took me to the stage and introduced me to him. Then she took out her flute and Wes improvised with her for a moment or two. No way in hell was I going back to Dartmouth. She saw how depressed I was about being kicked out of school. The stronger my putative pose of indifference, the more seismic my mood swings. I could be in a room with Malika and Stella, and I might not say a word for 5 minutes. The words roiled in my head, loud as foghorns. Not only had Stella been a nurse, but she was an autodidact nutritionist. She was the first person to tell me how cancer might be cured by diet, something I learned years later was called the Gerson method. She and Malika rarely ate meat and very little poultry. I can't remember one fried meal, and places like McDonald's, White Castle, and Burger King, where I had worked in Dinkytown when I first laid eyes on Stella, were off limits. I ate a fair amount of chocolate bars in 1978 when we first got together. She made me uncomfortable, the way she watched me and said, "It's your funeral," with a shrug of her shoulders. When I finally moved in with her, She would snatch a Snickers bar out of my hand with, "Let me see what those criminals are poisoning you with," turning a 3-syllable word into 2. Then, as I looked on with forlorn loss, Stella would read aloud all the unpronounceable chemicals put into it by the Mars Incorporated, a corporation that I, even as a young communist, saw as my friend who just wanted me to enjoy a scrumptious nougat topped with caramel and peanuts enrobed in mouth-watering milk chocolate. I had never thought to read the ingredients, nor would I have thought they were poison. But Stella insisted that high fructose corn syrup and the artificial flavoring were major contributors to my mood swings and depression. On New Year's Day, 1979, she made a deal with me. Give up my Mars bars, my Snickers bars, my 3 Musketeers for 6 weeks. She also wanted me to be a label sleuth with her in the store, by which she meant we would read the labels of everything we considered purchasing, from cereal to ketchup, and discard the products with more than 7 grams of processed sugar or any amount of high fructose corn syrup. If, after 6 weeks, I did not feel the fog lift from my brain, if the mood swings continued as before, then I could go back to my old reckless ways. Needless to say, Stella's wager worked. I had the kind of clarity of mind that I had not known in my 2 decades and change on the planet. I often wonder how I might have weathered the storm at Kenwood Elementary School had I known about sugar when I was a child. It wasn't just abstinence she wanted from me. Over those 6 weeks, we read William Duffy's Sugar Blues, a book that argues that sugar was once the cocaine of the Western world and is still as debilitating and addictive as nicotine. In winter, we made stovetop coffee in a saucepan of water and 4 tablespoons of fine ground coffee floating on the surface. If we got to talking at the table and not paying attention, we would almost let it boil. It had to almost boil for its rich roasted taste to keep from turning bitter. The year I made up my mind that I was never going back to Dartmouth, we lived 5 blocks from campus. The war in Vietnam had ended 3 years before, and the campus didn't look anything like the place I knew in high school. When Saigon fell in 1975, the atmosphere thinned of the righteous indignation that had thickened the air. It made me melancholy and made Stella sort of a has-been. Gone were the incandescent barricades severing the university's Washington Avenue artery to downtown Minneapolis. Gone were the voices with their list of demands from the occupied windows of Morrill Hall. Gone were the lectures that were thrown out the window when classes and seminars were commandeered for anti-imperialist teachings. All that was a brief moment when the world was being remade, and Stella could arrive unannounced, and she could rise and be applauded before she even spoke. But that moment was no more. The white left had robbed her while licking her face. 1, 2, 3, many Vietnams, she said with a laugh. It wasn't about Vietnam. It was about the shit they hadn't worked out at home. Now they want to go home. That's what you can do if you're white in this country. You can be a tourist in your own movie. Stella wasn't wrong. Whether underground fugitives were even turning themselves in to the police and doing unheard of deals with prosecutors, while members of the Black Liberation Army were still being hunted and tortured if and when they were captured. At one sleepy New York precinct, whether underground fugitives made the inconvenient error of trying to surrender in the afternoon on a Friday. They were told to come back on Monday and turn themselves in. Imagine, Stella said, If that was you and me turning ourselves in, Friday be damned. They would stay late, not to book us, but to beat us, and be so deep in their pleasure when they got done, they'd forget to put in for the overtime. One night in bed, I said that the 2 streaks of silver in her hair were beautiful, but I noted that a woman in her late 30s was too young to have gray hair. Did something happen to you? I asked her. Something traumatic? I wanted her to trust me the way I trusted her. Stress, she said. Then she turned over and went to sleep. Stella turned me on to the works of Toni Morrison and Alice Walker. Together, we discovered Fuentes, Amado, and Garcia Marquez. And though she was almost a generation older and grew up in the South, while I was born in the South but grew up in Minnesota, we shared the same way of being in our bodies, the same tonalities in our voices when we were with our white friends. We both knew how to make them feel at home. Our words were effortless and well chosen. They told us, not in words, how authentic they felt with us, how they were going to take themselves seriously from now on.
Ooh.
The jazz was always soft when they came to our house. With our Black friends, we discussed what worrisome burdens white people can be. But this duality had limits. Making our white friends feel safe in our presence made them think that we were somehow evolved in a way that the Black people they saw burning down the cities in the 1960s were not.
Yeah, y'all was civilized.
From 1978 until we fled our apartment in the spring of 1980, we hauled crates of apples and organic produce with our white friends at The Wedge, the city's first co-op, with its unfinished floors and its funky bends of oatmeal, chia seeds, raw almonds, and stone-ground millet in bulk. They felt at home in our home, a sense of welcome they could never feel, even if it was extended to them, in the Black neighborhood on the near north side of town. Our dwelling was the ground floor of a duplex in the center of a courtyard and drive that was ringed by a ramshackle horseshoe of wooden townhouse apartments just 5 blocks from campus. There's something about a campus community that makes you feel as though nothing catastrophic can happen to you there, as though the real world begins at the border. No lunch bucket laborers stepping tired off the bus, no deuce and a quarters double parked on the boulevard, no big hats and overcoats slung over one arm in basement nightclubs, no burst of sound in the street that stops the heart. Visiting our home was less strain on their nerves than adding ornaments from far-off places to their shelves. And they left with the feeling that they'd marched in Selma or hurled bricks during the riots on the near north side. But that wasn't enough for Josephine, who worked with nuclear fusion and nuclear waste in a lab at the university. I've long since forgotten if she was on the faculty or if she worked as a technician. This amnesia has kept me sane for almost 40 years. She lived above us. Before I came on the scene, Josephine and Stella had issues, mainly their disagreement over the ethics and safety of nuclear power. The 3 Mile Island accident had happened on March 28, 1979, less than 6 months after I became a factor in Stella's, and by extension, Josephine's lives. But there are heated debates over this issue, and even the way Stella's routine changed when we became lovers were not the real cause of the meltdown between these 2 women. Stella was simply tired of playing Hattie McDaniel to Vivian Lee. I've nursed her through failed relationships, but she never seemed to care about what I was going through. Josephine seemed to think that the downstairs part of the house was simply an extension of the upstairs part where she lived. It wasn't the unscheduled visits that annoyed Stella, and me, but the injury Josephine felt when Stella asked her to knock before coming inside, or to call first when Frank is here. When she heard such words, you could set your watch by the sundial on her face. Guilt, resentment, aggression. Malika, Stella, and I were in the back of the house eating dinner at the kitchen table. We heard the front door open and close. Josephine appeared in the threshold of the kitchen with bushels of lilacs in a straw basket. She had picked them in the courtyard just for us. No doubt, in her mind, the gift of flowers offset her violation of our space. But looking back on it, all I see is the extension of the master's prerogative in the way Josephine treated Stella. There's a scene in the film 12 Years a Slave in which the master, Edwin Epps, bursts into the slaves' cabin while they're in bed. He dances in the middle of their sleeping quarters and commands them to rise and make merriment in the big house with him. It has taken me 40 years to understand how neither he nor Josephine had violated anyone's space. The cabin where they slept belonged to him as much as their flesh belonged to him. The regime of violence that made them his property and prosthetics of his desire made it impossible to see what he did as a violation. This is to say that I was wrong to think Josephine did something wrong. At one time in history, Eastern seaboard slaves had grown to believe in the elasticity of accumulation and fungibility. In other words, slaves on the Eastern seaboard were not afro-pessimists in that they did not see themselves as primarily the objects of captivity. Rather, they saw themselves as the subjects of hyper-exploitation. And like me and Stella in 1980, slaves of the 18th and 19th centuries on the Eastern seaboard might have imagined that their dwellings were also their homes, and not the always and already home of Josephine and her race. They were in for a traumatic awakening when, starting in 1808, the westward movement of plantation culture to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, whether it was driven by individual owners who accompanied their slaves or by professional slave traders, tore that society asunder, exiling hundreds of thousands from their birthplace and traumatizing those who remained. Families and sometimes whole communities dissolved under the pressure of this second great migration. In short, Josephine was libidinally within her rights on the day she barged in while we were eating dinner. With as much poise as she could muster, Stella thanked Josephine and said that the two of them should meet tomorrow for coffee. "I thought you said you and Frank were busy tomorrow, Mom." Stella eyed her daughter as if to say, "Let's not do this now." Josephine was in no mood for discretion. In fact, Stella's poise rankled Josephine more than if she had jumped out of a bag. "Why coffee all of a sudden?" Josephine said. "To talk about boundaries." "I thought you were a feminist," she told Stella as she turned to go. For almost 40 years, I've wondered how this scene between Josephine and Stella played out in Malika's 12-year-old mind. We weren't always the best parents, Stella and I. We never took time with Malika after these tense confrontations with someone like Josephine. This isn't entirely true. Stella always explained to her the underlying nature of racism, the monstrous violence ensconced within the mundane of microaggressions. But, and this I regret with all my heart, we never asked her how she processed these spectacles emotionally. We didn't know how she had been wounded, just as I had no idea as a young boy how Mrs. Davenport's words would later affect me. Needless to say, the fact that I was only 11 years older than Malika didn't help our relationship. She and I had a hard time adjusting to one another. On more than one occasion, she told me, "You're not my father." As a young girl, she had a lot to contend with. Her biological father was Jewish, and though he seemed to have abandoned her emotionally and financially, and though his family had disowned and disinherited him until he divorced Stella, she carried with her the ensemble of dilemmas that seemed to afflict mixed-race children into adulthood.
So his friend was white. She did like white boys. And I'm still trying to figure out what she meant.
They both do. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
I'm ready to tell you she like white boys.
Yeah. And feminism is not a black person's fight. The swirl game is on 1,000 in this book.
I had all types of
Like,
problems with why the fuck they hanging with white people in the first motherfucking place. What we
Right.
doing?
but that's
What
what
we doing?
Brent was saying. Like, she's being used by the white people, but he liked her. But the thing
Right.
is, like, what is the
He
connection between?
he ain't had nothing to learn from her other than how to hate himself.
Right.
So I understand the connection between coffee and slavery, but what has coffee to do with feminism? I don't really get
Not a damn thing.
it. She was just like, I don't even know.
Shit.
All right, y'all.
But you'd be surprised how they do it in real life, though.
Yeah, Josephine was a white woman.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I'm talking to the comments. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, talking about we made them feel comfortable. I ain't never making no white bitch feel comfortable around me.
yeah, no, they've been making us uncomfortable all our damn lives.
Never. Okay? Them motherfuckers hated me out here in these streets.
Yeah.
Okay? Had to whoop up on one the day after Juneteenth. You hear me? The fuck? They get no grace. They get no exceptions. Motherfuckers come talking to me, excuse my language this morning, because that type of shit irritates me. You know, they walk up to you, give you that fake, white tea person smile that they do. Y'all ain't got nothing for us but hatred. So don't pretend like everything is cool.
Right.
And you know the sad part? We not if we ever
No
come
white
into
privilege
power-
over here, Ron.
Huh?
Ain't no white privilege over here.
Oh
Zero.
hell no! The sad thing, they try to pacify your ass.
What's up, Puno?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I'm shocked, like, because as I was listening throughout the whole story, I was kind of busy doing other stuff. I missed that the older person he was dating was white.
Oh no, Stella's black.
Oh, okay. I was about to, but ironically though, like Frank Wilderson is married to a white tea woman.
Yeah, we found that out later.
Oh,
His first wife was black, but
yeah.
the one he's with now is white.
Oh, so we did find the white tea woman that he married to now.
We still haven't found the actual photo proof.
Oh, okay.
He
hide that bitch. Look, he hide that.
Yeah, like this is my first time ever like reading or hearing this aloud. But because like I was saying before, all of my understanding of afro-pessimism happens from his interviews or like academic journals. But like to read an analysis through his own story is really fascinating because like storytelling holds our theories, it holds our alternative worldviews that we can like use to connect with each other for sure. But I do the thing that resonated with me a lot was like when he was joining the white folks or white tea folks that are like socialist or small. I don't know how to say it on. I don't know. Communist, I guess, or whatever. And like I identify with a lot of those politics, but the thing is, like, he's right, like in those spaces they don't want to talk about race issues, they only want to talk about labor issues. But it's just like, how can you talk about labor without race? Because it's always these white tea folks that abandoned labor the most. Like they forgot about us or they betrayed us in 1877 Reconstruction era. Like that was a Republican and Democrat thing. Like and then they abandoned us. And then I was reading that the founder of the gays.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, Puna. You keep saying abandoning you like they ever had you in the
I'm not
first
saying abandoned. I corrected myself. I said it's not abandoned,
It's
but
how
they
you coming across.
no, bro. It was a bad choice of words, but like
Yeah, it was.
yeah, but at least Frank is honest about his. Like maybe it was an unconscious thing of mine. Like a Freudian slip, as what they would say. Like what I mean. But back to my point though. I was just reading about no, it's fine. Like I was thinking about the ways that like these YT union leaders, how they don't they don't include labor for real, or like Eugene Debs or whatever, because like a lot of blacks were leaning in the South towards socialism, so he was like a socialist white dude, and it was like, yo, if you for the ending of segregation, like I'm for the social stuff, but like you trying to end segregation, he was like, no. So like you have these, even for me as like and I am a socialist for sure. Like I'm flat out like I believe that wealth should be managed by the public, but it should be in a black informed traditions about it. But like I just wonder, like especially like right now where like the wealth gap is big, so we need some kind of movement to resist against white tea capital forces. That's how I feel. But it's just like the question is, how are we gonna deal with these people when the wealth divide is really bad? Like I don't think that we can Black Wall Street our way out of it. I think we gotta
not on the same soil. Absolutely not.
Hell no.
Because we already know what they do when black folks start to rise in the United States. So why would we continue that same path? We have to learn from our predecessors, the ones who come before us. We can't use the same blueprint. We have to put some different shit together.
Well, okay, but in Frank's story, he was talking about people like Asada that confronted YT Capital. So it's just like if YT Capital is on our necks as we speak. So like, what are we going to do about that question? Like, because like either way it goes, we definitely need to come up with something different. I don't want to have repercussions from the state. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like, like that joint is scary. Like I write to political prisoners like Kevin Rashid and all those revolutionary guys, like guys who was like really in the streets, but they got educated and became fully themselves. But like I'm not trying to go out like that.
I don't want to interrupt you, but if you write letters to them in prison, you're already on the watch list.
Bro, we are on the watch list now. We are on TikTok. It's not that deep, brother. It's
something different than saying something on TikTok or writing to prisoners that have done something against the state. I think it's very good what you're doing. I don't think it's a bad thing, but they will definitely look into who.
I'm just saying. But this is why George Jackson calls this the God surveillance state. Like, so we don't like. Bro, it's a whole labyrinth. Like, even if you listen to the language that Frank Wilderson is using around the ways that he has to like juggle, contend, die to himself, like we're figuring this all out. But there are structures and mechanisms that they have already set in place on platforms like TikTok and other things. So it's just like, but I believe in what Cedric Robinson says, and this is why he disagrees with Frank Wilderson, is it's like even slavery or the world of anti-blackness is not a complete system. Like, so I just wonder, where is it incomplete? And maybe we can do something about it so we can be all right to weather the storms of this upcoming recession. I'm really worried. I mean, families without SNAP benefits and all that. Like,
You mean up? Hold up. What do you mean
Wait,
upcoming recession? We already in a
you
recession.
no,
already
no, no,
in?
no. It's
I'm not
imploding.
concerned about
It's
white tea not getting their motherfucking food stamps, and all my black people that are on them need to get the fuck up off of them and stop having this government help them along. Do it for your motherfucking self. I ain't never gotten zero. I have received zero help from this government,
Thank
and
you.
I am doing just fine, if not better. Okay.
Thank
but
you.
but they need government. But the white tea capital get help from government. White tea capital uses government as
Fine.
a
That's
Hold
tool
who.
for
on,
Hey,
hold on.
that's fine. This shit was
Yeah,
set up for them. We got to
for
get
sure.
out of this mindset,
exactly.
people. We
But
need to
like,
start. We need to start getting together, building businesses where we are trading with Africa, okay, in the
Exactly.
Caribbean,
Directly to the
Wait,
moving
source.
abroad and
100%.
using these American coins. We need
AJ.
to take notes from these
Yo,
immigrants, my
yo,
brothers and sisters.
no, we.
Take
I
this
just
money
said.
and funnel it back somewhere where your dollar actually has
Oh,
buying power, and build your what you want to build there. Why you want to build something here? You know, even if our people did work hard to build this motherfucker, we never built it for ourselves.
No, sure,
for
sure
sure,
didn't.
It was
absolutely.
forced labor,
Yeah,
forced free
absolutely.
labor
So,
for these white tea people to live like they fucking living. We need to take our buying power up out this bitch.
But like, there's a
So
good
let me know
book.
when we having that conversation.
So,
wait, Puno, because we got 45 minutes left of the book. We're going to get back into it. I promise. I promise. I
Look, you know,
promise.
I'm over here.
Yeah, because I,
hey,
I
Hey
know
T,
I
I'm
know
with
you
you
Yeah.
want to
all damn
prolong
day,
the
girl.
conversation too, but let's finish this last bit and get back in that shit because it's a
All
couple things
right.
I want to talk about.
All
I'm
right.
with you on that all damn day, T.
All day long. The fuck?
Right, here we go.
A fear of slipping into the darkness of their black side and without ever having
Hey, Caesar,
ascended to the
sorry.
light of white redemption. And for my part, I resented the fact that she was born with this crisis and I was not. A crisis in which I, as a dark-skinned person with no whiteness in my features, was the living, breathing image of the hell into which she could descend. Stella told me how hard she had worked to teach her daughter about our culture and the lashes we endured for the rights most people don't even know they have. But it's slipping away, she said, sobbing. The longer I stay here, the more it slips away. As it turned out, I saw other things, how her breath quickened, as if she felt a sudden tightness in her chest when she spoke of urban risers, one of LBJ's Great Society programs, and the lawsuit she had filed against it. She said she had proof of embezzlement, legal documents, and audio tapes of board meetings that she had recorded herself. You're saying the federal government or someone at Health, Education, and Welfare knew about all this? I asked her. I meant it as a question. She took it as a challenge. You can ask my lawyer, Noam Davidoff, she said, if you don't believe me. You talk like you're used to being doubted. I'm a black woman. What rock have you been under? Noam Davidoff came to the house and said that after years of wrangling with the federal government, he had secured a court date for her, November 13th, 1980, which at this time was in less than a year. He also said he didn't have the resources. I remember very distinctly the word he used was resources to help her. Then he looked my way and said, or you, until we go to court. He didn't mean help. He meant protect. And by resources, he seemed to be referring to protection. It was then that I would understand the gravity of Stella's lawsuit. The board members of Urban Risers, whom she was accusing of graft, and maybe even people in the government who ran interference for them or looked the other way, could not afford for the recordings and documents Stella had amassed to be made public. Noam's hair was curly, like Abby Hoffman's. He was a movement lawyer. It was clear he earned more gratitude than money with his brown corduroys, his unknotted tie, and his stone-washed raincoat home from the wars. In the early 1970s, Noam Davidoff worked with the radical lawyer William Kunstler, as well as Mark Lane and a group of researchers to represent the American Indian Movement, AIM, defendants in the Wounded Knee trial. I didn't know Stella back then, but Stella and Noam had been lovers, and she attended every session of the trial. At the front door, she straightened the collar of his shabby raincoat. So now a dull, metallic jealousy began to gather at the back of my mind. She and Noam shared a history salted with victories, like the verdict in favor of the Native American defendants Noam had helped to secure. She and I had no history at all. And the history we were making, I feared, a fear that yokes me to this day, was unfolding as a story I would never want to tell. I wish I'd gone to the kitchen or turned my head to cough, to go back in time and orchestrate a random distraction to prevent me from the sight of her fingers straightening his collar. I wanted him to leave, but just as strongly I wanted him to stay. I believed that he, not I, had the credentials to tell her to take the settlement and not go to trial. As much as my heart pained to see them speak so effortlessly together, even when they disagreed, as much as I wanted that to be over, it was clear that if anyone could change Stella's mind, it was Noam, not me. He made it plain that the government would settle with Stella out of court. Noam was absolutely sure Stella would get $100,000. She would have to hand over all the tapes of the secret recordings she'd made when she was an employee of Urban Risers. She would have to relinquish financial documents she photocopied to prove corruption, and the secret audio recordings she made of Urban Risers meetings that might be incriminating of Kapale Kenyatta, who had been the director of Urban Risers, or employees of the federal government with whom Kapale Kenyatta worked.
So he wanted
all
to
of
snitch.
This would be sealed. There's one more thing. You'll have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, giving your word you won't talk about the case, ever, he emphasized. You talk about this after they pay you, Stella, and they'll come after you. What if I don't settle out of court? Then you're down for next November, a week after the presidential elections of 1980. As your lawyer, I have to advise you, Stella scoffed. I've waited years. I can wait 11 months. Take a few days to think about it. You wouldn't settle if you were in my shoes, would you? You never settled with the government. I was never the litigant, and I'm not a single mom with financial challenges. Just say welfare, Noam. It's only 2 syllables. Have you forgotten all the people who were murdered by government proxy during the Wounded Knee affair? Then Noam turned to me. What do you think? You didn't answer my question, Stella interjected before I could speak. You can start over with that kind of money, he said, still not answering the question. Stella rejoined. A trial could reveal Kapale Kenyatta's connection to government officials who can't afford to be linked to someone like him. If you make it to the courthouse, if I make it to the courthouse. I watched these 2 old lovers talk about death as though they were the heroine and hero of a film noir classic, weighing their options against the mob. But as the conversation wound down and Stella had still refused the settlement, I knew it wasn't a film, and I knew that I wasn't a spectator. If I settle out of court, Stella said, as Noam set his teacup down on the living room table and inched forward in the easy chair, I'll never know who was behind all of this. If it even makes it to the newspapers, and you're basically telling me that won't happen because the money buys my silence. Based on the evidence so far, they'd call it another example of the kind of gangsterism and shady business dealings people associate with the ghetto in North Minneapolis. But not when they think of 3M Corporation in Maplewood, the regional banks downtown, or Pillsbury Company's assortment of businesses. The government will get away clean. $100,000 is nothing for them to pay if it means they can avoid indictments up the food chain. Noam stood up and said he understood. Stella had always been a fighter, and he hadn't expected her to take the out-of-court settlement. As I watched them and listened, I had the feeling of being 11 years old, seated at a folding table with other children at Thanksgiving, catching fragments of what the adults said at the long, old wood table in the center of the room. Noam picked up his vintage leather briefcase, scooped the files from the coffee table, and put them in. "There's more to this than meets the eye," he said as he slung his raincoat on. It sloped to one side. A corner of his collar had folded under, and he hadn't noticed. She rose and plucked it free. It was an act of tenderness and joy, and I hope to God, not desire. "Oh, Noam," she chuckled as she patted his lapel with her palm. For the past 90 minutes, I had waited for an intimacy to pass between them. He smiled back. They've done this 100 times before, I thought. I watched her watch him down the stairs. Though I spent nights on end in the lower level of the duplex where Stella lived with Malika, I still had my own apartment when Noam came to Stella's house. It was November 1979. By the end of the year, I would be on welfare. In fact, it was that November of 1979 that Stella and I saw our revolution die. It was the month we rejoiced at the news that Assata Shakur had been freed from a maximum security prison by the Black Liberation Army. It was the month the Ku Klux Klan shot and killed Black demonstrators in Greensboro, North Carolina, just rode up to the picket line, got out of the car, and shot them at near point-blank range. November was the month we watched it on the news. The Klansmen opened their trunk, they fetched their weapons, they sprinted 10 yards to the marchers, they opened fire. 5 lay dead on the ground. That month, Stella and I had no idea that Assata would have to spend the rest of her life in Cuba, in exile. We had no idea that the film we saw would not be enough to convict the assailants, and we had no idea that by March of the coming year, we'd be sleeping in my parents' car. Several days after Noam left, days crowded with silence as Stella thought on what he had said, she called a man named Jamal. She told him she needed protection. There was silence on his end for 3 interminable beats. Protection from who? Jamal asked. The system, Stella said. By the end of 1979, the number of people Stella knew who could hear the system without raising an eyebrow had dwindled. But Jamal used to say, just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. In 1968, when he and Stella and damn near everyone they knew believed in revolution, Jamal had gone up against the system and did a nickel of a 10-year stint in Stillwater Prison in Bayport, Minnesota. He wasn't someone who would raise an eyebrow when someone mentioned the system. As a result of Stella's call, Jamal and a brilliantly taciturn brother dropped by Stella's house one night when I wasn't there. Jamal said, "Let's go for hamburgers," as he motioned to the ceiling light and the telephone. Then he put his finger over his lips. Stella thought of White Castle as a temple where Satan killed you with sodium and trans fats. But this wasn't a night for insisting that Jamal sit down with her and pore over back issues of Prevention magazine. In the booth at the White Castle restaurant on 36th Avenue and Lake Street, Stella's daughter, who never missed anything, watched as the quiet brother looked around the restaurant, then nodded to Jamal. Malaika saw Jamal unwrap his hamburger and put it on his lap. Then he fetched something from his pocket and wrapped it in the hamburger paper, which he passed to Stella. Later that night, Malaika told me that she got up to go to the bathroom and found her mother sitting on the bed with an automatic handgun and a magazine of bullets. She watched her mother snap the clip into place, wrap it in an oilskin, and hide it in the closet deep behind the shoes. I was not yet driving a cab at that point. That would start when I moved in with Stella. I still worked as a waiter at Williams Cafe, but the restaurant was slow one night, and I was sent home early. My studio was on the ground floor of an old brownstone 6 blocks from Lake of the Isles. The key worked, but the door to my studio was chained from the inside. How could I have done that? I thought in self-rebuke. It took a moment for me to realize that, in point of fact, I could not have done that. Someone else did that. That someone was inside. I sprinted down the hall. I burst out the front door and dashed to where I could see my apartment window. The alley light lit them in silhouette. One leg curled out the window of my studio, then his torso, then the other leg. He stumbled and almost fell before he ran. Then the other one rolled out with the grace of a pole vaulter clearing the bar. His long hair flounced up and down in the yellow light. Like a fool, I chased them halfway down the alley. Like an even bigger fool, I called the cops. When they arrived, even with the Murphy bed closed into the wall, there was little space left. One large cot by the sink and stove, and me and his partner in the middle of the room. You have this wad of cash on you, or you left it here when you went to work? The one by the sink said to me, pointing to the money in the dish strainer. Tip money that I carelessly left by the sink until I went to the bank. I told him I had left it there. Did you leave this Miranda camera here when you went to the restaurant? I nodded. The cop by the sink was counting. 80, 85, 90, $95 in cash. A camera worth what, 2 C-notes? $300 worth of stuff just left here? You say someone, 2 people. You say 2 people climbed in, chained the door from the inside, and then what? Played bridge? Had a cup of coffee? You see how it looks from where we stand. I have a right to privacy. That's what they stole. They looked at me as though I had said, I have a right to shingles. My books had been taken from my bookshelf and arranged on the floor in neat, orderly rows. The case to my typewriter was open, and pages from a novel I was writing were spread on the desk. Whoever did this knew my schedule. They thought they had time. Time for what? You won't know unless you investigate. The cop by the sink nodded. Investigate. Gotcha. Then he stooped and picked up 2 books from the floor. I.F. Stone, The Killings at Kent State, How Murder Went Unpunished. Karl Marx, The Communist Manifesto. He placed them both back neatly on the floor. What are you reading this stuff for? Not surprisingly, I soon moved in with Stella and Malaika, and a gun in the closet that we didn't know how to use. Part 4.
Oh, God.
We had fallen back to sleep after making love when we heard someone enter Stella's apartment. We were naked under the sheets. It was 9:30 in the morning. For a moment I thought, this isn't happening. Now I realize what struck such terror in me, that which I had no words for at the time. My mind flashed on the image of our throats being slit. This isn't a robbery. They want to be heard. They want us to know they're here. I jumped out of bed. My feet slapped the wood floor. I opened the closet where Stella kept the gun Jamal had given her. Stella wasn't alarmed. She told me it was Malika, who'd left earlier for school. She must have forgotten something. The front door and the living room were near Stella's bedroom. As she tugged into her clothes, she called out through the door, "What'd you forget, Malika?" There was no answer. A chair scraped the floor. I started to get dressed as well, but Stella motioned for me to stay in the bedroom. "Let me talk to her before you come out." The voice that accosted Stella in the living room did not belong to Micah. "Aren't you tired of this pattern, Stella? Putting me in cold storage whenever you find someone new?" It was Josephine. I couldn't believe it. After what Stella had told her just the other day about boundaries, this woman had the nerve to enter the apartment again without knocking. "Get out," I heard Stella say. "He's your daughter's age." I opened the bedroom door in time to see Stella grab Josephine and yank her toward the door. "Hattie McDaniel is dead. You're not welcome anymore." They were on the front porch now. Josephine didn't fight back, but nor was she cowed. I stayed inside the screen door, not knowing what my role was or should be. Stella told Josephine, "You've been misled. I'm not here for your amusement, and your being a nuclear physicist at the University of Minnesota doesn't make you Scarlett O'Hara." "Stella, we used to be there for each other." Stella let out a shrill laugh. "That's what you call it? There for each other? You're a parasite. No, a psychopath. You act like you own me." The word psychopath inflamed Josephine's face. For nearly 40 years, the expression on her face has boomeranged from the back of my brain at intervals beyond my control. I last saw it at the movies. The film was 12 Years a Slave, and a woman in the film by the name of Mary Epps looked first at her husband and then at her husband's concubine, a slave named Patsy, with the same wild eyes and thin mouth as Josephine's. In the film, Mary Epps demands that her husband sell Patsy, but Edwin Epps tells her that he'd divorce her before he sold Patsy. This all takes place in the drawing room at midnight. Edwin Epps has forced his family slaves to wake up, even though they must work in the fields in a few hours, and play music and dance for him in the drawing room. What's telling about this scene is the way Patsy functions as an object, but not a subject, for both Edwin and Mary. "You will sell her," Mary demands. The slaves have stopped dancing. They are all in the same room with the couple that owns them, but they are objects, not agents of the discussion, even Patsy. Neither Edwin nor Mary ever turn to Patsy and say, in the case of Edwin, for example, "Do you have a take on this mess?" Or in the case of Mary, "How could you be so low as to steal my husband?" Patsy has enough survival skills to stay silent, but this doesn't stop Mary Epps from bashing her in the eye with a large crystal whiskey decanter when Edwin Epps refuses to sell her. For his part, Edwin simply sighs as Patsy, lying on her back on the floor, clutching her eye, is dragged away by two of the other slaves. He yells at them. He commands Solomon and the other fiddlers to go on playing. He shouts at the others to show some merriment and dance. He says, "I will not have my mood spoiled." I don't think Josephine was enraged because she had just been called a psychopath. I think she was enraged because Stella had dared to speak. Josephine's slave had spoken, period. This has less to do with the actual word Stella used, psychopath, and more to do with the fact that an object meant merely for the pleasure of possession had gazed back at a human subject. Stella had cracked out of turn. We will see later how this is not the same as a non-Black subjugated person breaking the rules or the contract of their domination. For years, Stella had suffered Josephine's presence and possessiveness diplomatically. In other words, Josephine had characterized Stella's behavior freely, without restraint, but Stella had never returned the favor. It was the same pavane that Black women have danced with white women for centuries, where only the white woman could break the rules and take hold of the Black woman. Josephine was now furious. She ran through a list of names, 6 of Stella's past lovers, a famous saxophonist who got his start in Minneapolis and now had good work in Chicago, a Pro Bowl linebacker who had just been inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, Noam Davidoff, the civil rights lawyer who had been in the news during Wounded Knee, her ex-husband, Yuri, whom Stella had helped make his mark as a countercultural photographer, a famous oil painter, and of course, the man named Jamal, who couldn't decide, Josephine said, if he was a revolutionary or a heroin addict.
Oh.
Stella shoved her. Josephine didn't skip a beat as she stumbled down the stairs of the porch, saying, "Now you're in there fucking a foster child. If I'm a psychopath, you're a pedophile."
Gasp.
Stella told Josephine that if she ever entered without knocking again, she, Stella, would treat it like breaking and entering. People from the surrounding walk-ups took note of the 2 women standing on the gravel drive. Josephine raised her voice so that they could all hear her and said, "Are you threatening me? First you assault me, now you're threatening me?" The manager of the complex was outside tinkering on his 1976 Harley-Davidson. I'd managed to avoid him up till now. His hair shagged down his shoulders, but up front he was practically bald. He wore a black leather jacket with markings and insignia I didn't recognize. But he had friends with bikes and the same leather jackets with the same insignias that made my skin tremor when their engines rumbled outside our windows. His name, I had learned, was Cody, and I often saw him in the company of bikers. He wore shades both day and night, and from his belt hung a leather sheath with a blade that was blacksmith from a railroad tie. Josephine and Cody had never been friends. Josephine once told Stella he looked like a rapist. And although Josephine and Cody were not that far apart in age, Josephine, with her close cropped hair, her oversized handbag, her wooden clogs, and her black tights and shapeless tunics, bore no resemblance to the women I had seen on the back of his motorcycle. But the bond they formed against Stella in the courtyard that day was formed spontaneously and with the ease of mental telepathy. Cody's feet guided him to stand next to Josephine. "We're not having threats made in the courtyard," he told Stella. I went to the kitchen. I remember opening one of the drawers. The top drawer was for tableware. The middle drawer held soup ladles and kitchen knives. The bottom drawer held screwdrivers, hammers, and nails. I ran down the porch steps and over to Stella's side. She had just called them both xenophobes. "All your $2 words and you're still on welfare," Josephine said from behind her biker prints. Up until that moment, I had lived 23 years on the planet under the false assumption that my greatest fear was the fear of death. But now, as I saw the gothic pattern of death on Cody's jacket and the head of a rail spike that someone had forged into a knife, I knew that I was afraid of something much worse than death. A few folks from the other units ventured nearer now. They asked Cody and Josephine what was going on. It was then that it struck me, the thing I had never before been able to get hold of in words. I feared a death without meaning, a death without a story to it, a chain of events that would make sense to those who survived me, a clear and logical chain of events that anyone could read and, when they finished, lift their heads from the page and say, I can see why he died. It's under control, Cody told the people around us. Then to Stella, you need to go inside. You need to get out of Stella's face, I said. My palm was an oil slick. The hammer or knife I had grabbed in the kitchen kept slipping. I don't recall how this confrontation drew to a close. I can see all four of us exchanging words and then, apparently, walking away from each other. I can see Josephine walking away, and she's inviting Cody up to her apartment for a beer. She'd never said boo to him before. I see me and Stella mounting the steps on the porch. I see what came after, because it didn't end there. What went down between Stella and Josephine can't be reduced to a fight between neighbors. The antagonism between them was prefigured before they even met. In other words, the die was cast hundreds of years ago on the plantation. The fact that Josephine was, on a conscious level, oblivious to this antagonism doesn't diminish it. In fact, when driven by the force of one's unconscious, one often plays out one's role with a deeper sense of commitment to maintaining the paradigm of despotic violence into which one has been stitched and stamped from the beginning. Stella, however, was a student of racial antagonisms. Her seeming obliviousness to the irreconcilability between her position in the world and Josephine's was not so much the labor of unconscious disavowal as, I would say, a tactical maneuver of the mind, one she'd designed for years in order to postpone, if not avoid altogether, the very moment at which she and Josephine had arrived, the moment in which the antagonism insisted upon a stage on which it could be played out in the open. Stella, in other words, had spent years attempting to displace her reservations and discomfort over Josephine's behavior as a white person onto Josephine's commitment to nuclear energy. She wanted to make the conflict sane by homing in on the contradiction between Josephine's liberal politics and her reactionary commitment to nuclear fusion. This is far more manageable for a Black person's mind than nightly ruminations on the ways in which my upstairs neighbor is my master and I am her slave. There's no hope for a redemptive narrative if that is the case. But this was a function of Stella's active intellectual labors, a mind game she played with herself to crowd into corners distant and dark her acute awareness not just of the power imbalance between her and Josephine, but of the rituals of terror and the regime of violence that allowed white women to see in her face what they needed to see. You can live a lifetime as a white woman's mirror, Stella once told me. She was the implement of Josephine's renewal and sense of herself. What happens when a tool talks back, when the mirror breaks itself?
All right, I'm gonna stop it there. Yeah, he cooking, but I'm gonna stop it there. I think that's a good stopping point. What's interesting to me is we always host these lives that say, "Oh, we can't be friends with white people," but you see what happens when you friend with them? They're just collecting data to use it against you. Because why should I have to tell that lady all that lady business like that? What's up, Caesar?
Hey, what's up? No, I was vibing to the reading.
Mm. But it's so funny when we were talking about the welfare thing. My coworker and I was just talking about that shit yesterday. I'm like, that wasn't even meant for black people. I hope y'all know that, right? Um, and they're only mad
Of course,
because
I know it. That's why I said it's the white tea people that's gonna be upset next month. It ain't
right,
gonna be us.
right.
They don't on that shit.
The thing is,
Lazy asses.
yep, they show us knowing that they're the ones who get it the most because they control the media. So they're gonna make it look like it's a whole bunch of poor black people complaining, old people. I saw somebody on my local news. I get vegetables and stuff with that, and I'm like, man, goddamn well you was not buying no vegetables,
Thank you. Vegetable juice.
right?
Let me stop.
But what y'all think so far? It does speak like the way that he describes trying to make white people feel comfortable um makes me understand why he's with a white person.
Hmm.
Because I could never.
That's just never been my vibe,
Mm.
I just, I think I told you this the other day, Marlon. When my brother married the white tea woman, all of a sudden, she telling him to tell my family to tell us that we can't use the N word around her. If you don't get the fuck up out of here, bitch. Okay,
Right.
you married into blackness. We didn't marry into whiteness. Okay, over here we say nigga and bitch. You want to the fuck,
Yeah.
girl? I don't get that. But my brother, he did the thing that I knew that he was gonna do. He kept his children away from the black side of his family. They don't even know how to be black.
Mm.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have time for that. Weakening the line, weakening our strength with that shit. I'm not about to bow down to them. I don't owe them nothing. You know what I'm saying? If I don't trust you. I can't trust you.
Yep. The
White
minute.
people have never done anything but when they get in proximity to black people, find out all they can know so they can go tell they triple K people so
Yep.
they can start fucking with us. I don't know. I don't trust it.
Yep. The yeah, the minute they feel comfortable around you, it's a problem. I need you to feel uncomfortable at all
It's
costs,
possible.
all
It's
time.
all time. Yep.
Because if you're not feeling uncomfortable, I'm not doing my job.
I'm doing my job. You made my people feel uncomfortable since you brought them over here. Why would I ever let you forget that?
Yep.
Never.
And even the ones I work with, that you uncomfortable, and we work from home. Y'all uncomfortable through Zoom. I don't play with them at all. What you say? What you say? You do know that's a microaggression, right? What's a microaggression? I suggest you go take a DEI course.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Again, it's not for me to educate you on what you don't know. You
Mm.
know. Ugh.
But yeah, we'll pick it back up tomorrow. Um, yeah. Anybody else got anything else to say?
I think the 12 years of slave part kind of got me. I'm like, yeah, that's all they do is homework,
Mm-hmm.
feed us trauma, and
Yeah, I got to go rewatch that. I haven't watched it since I first watched it because I love those movies, but they're still very hard to watch. I get
If
very
I
emotional.
if I recall, I remember thinking that she did that so she wouldn't look beautiful anymore to him. So she tried to damage him.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Tomorrow, y'all want to read some more? I don't mind if y'all want to read some more.
I still have some time. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I love starting my book with a good read. This is not bad. I've even gotten over the fact that the reader is monotone.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, but he his voice now. Now it's okay.
Right.
He's no longer bothering me.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we could go ahead and see some more of the chapter. Then I just tried to break up this chapter because it was so long. But if we got it, we can do it. All
Okay.
right.
And my old ass didn't want to walk up there.
Okay.
It seemed like 4 days didn't go by without Stella needing to claim her right to privacy. Each time, Josephine seemed to harden, a chitin shell now surrounding her. When Stella called Josephine a xenophobe, Josephine looked like she'd been hit with a nasty gumshoe. There were 3 or 4 neighbors in the courtyard. They heard it too. They stopped. No one said anything. Josephine seemed to have lost the air of command she carried so effortlessly. The whole ordeal lasted all of 30 seconds, but it seemed like a 3-year root canal. At last, Josephine said, "I don't know what that word means." The scientist had been bested by the welfare mother. If only it was that and that alone. Josephine seemed to quake. She stood perfectly still. She didn't bat an eye, but everyone could see the crags an earthquake of shame had torn through her pride. Stella made Josephine suffer, made her watch her mouth for the hint of a smile. "Look it up," said Stella. On a plantation, Stella would have paid on the spot for her cheekiness and paid for it in flesh. Josephine would have had her horsewhipped in the middle of the courtyard. But this was the winter of 1979, 1980, and it was Minnesota, not Mississippi. And Minnesota, after all, was the land of progressives. A public whipping would embarrass Josephine and her liberal sense of ethics. And yet, rather than avoid Stella and let us live in peace, Josephine did all she could to set the stage, to occasion and allow the conditions that were guaranteed to lead to her humiliation. She was a masochist, yes, but she was also in charge of the masochistic encounter. Hattie McDaniel is dead, Stella had averred. She was saying she was sick and tired of being Josephine's tool, a stage prop, as she put it, for whatever sick shit is going on in her mind. These words index the regime of violence I alluded to earlier, a regime of violence that Josephine, as a white person, had at her disposal, whether or not she ever tapped into it. For decades, I have tried to understand why Josephine, and later her 2 male accomplices, Cody and another man whom I had never seen before, took her satisfaction from our flesh, how it got to the point where our only options were to go upstairs and break her door down in an effort to find out why our skin was burning, or to flee our home, leave completely, drop a note in her mailbox, "We give up, you win." We would not have been the first Black family to be run out of town. In 1921, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street was burned to the ground. 35 people were massacred. 800 were hospitalized. Black businesses were bombed from the air. And picnic lynching is not an oxymoron, but a blending of pleasures and psychic renewal. When Stella said, "Hattie McDaniel is dead," she named herself as Josephine's slave. In the South, perhaps, such a naming wouldn't work in Stella's favor. If Josephine had been a Southerner, she might have been immune to shame, and she might not have been Stella's friend. But Josephine didn't see herself as a Southerner. She saw herself as an enlightened Northerner. What true-blood woman from the land of cotton would wear clogs and REI jackets and choose to live a mile from campus in a ramshackle block of flats where students live cheek by jowl with a few gray-beard relics from the New Left, middle-aged bohemians, and a few young sanctified yuppies living on the cheap, trying to save enough money to cross the river and move downtown. The courts, as our complex was called, did not seem like the antebellum South. Yet, in some strange way, every single scene in America is played out on an antebellum stage. It's just that in the North, it can take the actors some time to learn their lines and play their roles. Josephine didn't know how she'd been cast. The roles she and Stella had played for so long were only legible in her unconscious until Stella said, "Hattie McDaniel is dead." The brilliance of recognition flashed in her eyes. The terror of lynchings, whippings, mutilations, and her people's violent consumption of the African continent unmasked itself as her birthright, an inheritance she did not have to ask for. The tension between Josephine and Stella, and later between Cody and me, escalated into violence. Violence that is hard to mold into narrative because violence in a narrative must have an explanation, a trigger, a contingent moment that makes it make sense. But anti-Black violence won't cooperate with narrative. The explanation bleeds out beyond the actors. It is immune to rational thinking and logical predictions. It is a force from which there is no sanctuary. It is rainproof to rebuke, for it comes as enforcement followed by the law. When violence is the law and not the effect of its enforcement, it presents the rules of narrative with a crisis. Because what we have is a situation that resists retelling for the simple reason that narrative's causal principle, the ghost in the machine we call the causal logic or because principle of the story, is missing. This is how a Black story is jinxed. There is no ghost in the machine. The reason for the violence is beyond the grasp of reason. There's nothing universal about it. Therefore, the only way to make it intelligible is to leave out the parts that may only be accepted by another Black person, and even then, discreetly. What if you belonged to a race of people with a private army under the command of their fantasies? Reason would have to go to war with your regime of violence before your conditions would be right for you to reconsider the phantasms you had projected onto the world. Imagine the resources of a violent structure that can deputize the whims of an entire race. Slave narratives have tried to imagine this violence, but they have also turned away at crucial moments when it becomes clear that without a causal logic, the story could fall apart. In cases such as these, the solution has been to disavow the inconvenient truths and get on with the narrative. This is how Northerners get along. We lived in the northernmost state on the Mississippi River. We're calling people by their names, Josephine, Stella, Frank, Cody, while at the same time disavowing their positions within a regime of violence, master, slave, is required for the sake of racial harmony. But 1,000 miles south as the crow flies, on that stretch of the Mississippi from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, the antagonisms have routinely been played out in the open. If one asked Mary Epps why she bashed Patsy's eye with a whiskey decanter, or why she goaded Edwin Epps into whipping Patsy within an inch of her life, as he eventually does, even she would try to find a reason. Patsy seduced my husband, which would fall apart the moment it was brought to her attention that Patsy lived without consent, without, that is, the right to accept or deny Edwin and Mary access to her body. As a slave, Patsy has no right to sanctuary, sexual or otherwise. Edwin Epps might also feel compelled to make sense of the senseless mutilation. I whipped Patsy at the end of the film because she betrayed me. I think she slept with Solomon, and she left the plantation without my permission. He would not be consciously lying, but Much like Josephine, who couldn't tap into the core of her relationship to Stella until Stella said, Hattie McDaniel is dead, Edwin Epps would have forgotten the key word he spoke whenever he brutalized his slaves: pleasure. I am in my pleasure. Both Solomon Northrup's autobiography and the film Steve McQueen made from it are queasy about the way society's pleasure is subtended by anti-Black violence. They hold it up to us only to disavow its depth. Josephine, with her annual subscription to Ms. Magazine, her small donations to the Sierra Club, her no-nonsense clogs, and her green Carter Mondale bumper sticker, a tested and trustworthy team, was the spectator the film had in mind when it felt the need to lie. But Josephine was also a modern-day doppelganger of Mary Epps and Edwin Epps combined. The film tries to anchor the whippings that a Black woman receives in the rational explanations of jealousy and transgression. In other words, the narrative asks us to believe that the principal reason for so much mutilation of flesh is contingent upon some inappropriate act, a transgression that can be named. We are told Mary Epps, the wife of a ruthless plantation owner, wants Patsy, a beautiful, of course, only the beautiful ones are wanted, and productive slave, beaten and sold because her husband creeps down from the mansion at night to rape Patsy, an act he, no doubt, sees as more amorous.
Imagine being jealous of a person who is getting great. You have to be a sick motherfucker.
Than violent. We are told that Solomon's back is opened with a paddle and a whip because he could not be disciplined, or because he and other slaves did not pick his quota of cotton for the day. Jealousy and transgression put the audience at ease, release them from the horror of having to think of this violence as pleasure without purpose, like an act of love or a song in the heart, or skipping down the street when no one is looking. All the things that sustain human life but don't appear on the ledger. What if anti-Black violence could be counted among the things that make life life, without registering as profit or loss? What if jealousy and transgression are ruses, disguises that the real reasons for the violence hide behind? If no contingency triggers this violence, how can it fit in a story? How do we make sense of a pre-logical phenomenon like anti-Black violence? I am in my pleasure. In other words, the whippings are a life force, like a song or good sex without a procreative aim. Jouissance is the word that comes to mind, a French word that means enjoyment in terms both of rights and property and of sexual orgasm. The latter has a meaning partially lacking in the English word enjoyment. Jouissance compels the subject to constantly attempt to transgress the prohibitions imposed on his or her enjoyment, to go beyond the pleasure principle. Jouissance is an anchor tenet of psychoanalysis. But until the work of critical theorists David Marriott, Jared Sexton, and Saidiya Hartman, that is to say, prior to an afro-pessimist hijacking of psychoanalysis, devotees of Lacan and Freud had not made the link between jouissance and the regime of violence known as social death. This juxtaposition, unfortunately, takes place at a level of abstraction that is too high for narrative and the logic of storytelling. Unlike violence against the working class, which secures an economic order, or violence against non-Black women, which secures a patriarchal order, or violence against Native Americans, which secures a colonial order, the jouissance that constitutes the violence of anti-Blackness secures the order of life itself, sadism in service to the prolongation of life. One thing that makes this sadism life-affirming and communal, as opposed to destructive and individual, is the fact that it is a family affair. In his book, Solomon Northup recalls episodes of Patsy's beatings with details that are crucial and missing from the film. Mistress Mary Epps, he writes, stood on the piazza among her children, gazing on the scene with an air of heartless satisfaction. The scene that Solomon Northup paints of Mary Epps standing on the piazza brings to mind the musings of Mary Boykin Chestnut, the most cited chronicler of the American Civil War, who wrote, "Our men live all in one house with their wives and their concubines, and the mulattoes one sees in every family exactly resemble the white children. All the time they seem to think themselves patterns, models of husbands and fathers." In the realm of the conscious mind, Mary Chestnut is as incensed by the licentious satisfaction white male slaveholders extract from Black women as Mary Epps is in her conscious mind as well. But Solomon Northup's psychoanalytic labor indexes how, in the realm of the unconscious mind, this heartless satisfaction is the currency of men like Edwin Epps and their wives, despite the fact that only the former can secure his satisfaction in the open. The point to be made is that this satisfaction is shared even if its expression is not. Like her husband, Mary Epps is in her pleasure, and she is also with her children, who are also in their pleasure as well. This generalization of satisfaction and pleasure, subtended by gratuitous violence against Black flesh, fans out from conventional sadism between sexual partners to a family gathering of adults and children of all ages, like the Epps' son, a boy of 10 or 12 who rides his pony out to the cotton fields and, without discrimination, applies the rawhide, urging slaves forward with shouts and occasional profanity. We would be wrong to think that the boy's urging slaves forward lends purpose and legibility to the violence. It does not. Like any other child, the boy is at play. He is in his pleasure. Each time he rides his little pony to the fields, he compels an old man named Uncle Abram to be his cheering squad, his chorus, to laugh and commend him for being a thoroughgoing boy. Northup's book implies, without stating directly, why this generalization of sadism, brutality as the constituent element of family bonding, cannot be understood as being triggered by transgressions. It is as ubiquitous as the air he breathes. It was rarely a day passed without more whippings. It is the literal, unvarnished truth that the crack of the lash and the shrieking of slaves can be heard from dark till bedtime. Patsy and Solomon, unlike Stella and me, were living in a place and time when civil society and the human were neither ashamed nor embarrassed by this. 1,000 miles upriver and 126 years later, Josephine was shocked by this inheritance, but it didn't take her long to recover and to claim it. Though the structure of Stella's life or better, the paradigm of social death, for the quotation marks are essential here, cannot be reconciled with the structure of Josephine's life, or the paradigm of social life. There is a connection. But this connection is parasitic and perverse. Regardless of what the socially dead Black person, that is Stella and Patsy, or the socially alive human, that is Josephine or Mary Epps, might say about their relationship. It is parasitic because white and non-Black subjectivity cannot be imbued with the capacity for self-knowledge and intersubjective community without anti-Black violence, without, that is, the violence of social death. In other words, white people and their junior partners need anti-Black violence to know they're alive. Junior partners are people who are human, but not white hetero males. For example, people of color and white women who are targets of white supremacy and patriarchy, respectively, and simultaneously the agents and beneficiaries of anti-Black violence. This category also includes LGBT people who are not Black and Indigenous communities. They are partners because, as with white hetero males, anti-Blackness is the genome of their paradigmatic positions, and because they suffer at the hands of contingent violence rather than the gratuitous or naked violence of social death. If Hattie McDaniel were to truly die, as Stella proclaimed, it would be tantamount to the death of a parasite's host. This is what makes social death something more surreal than the end of breath. It is, in the words of David Marriott, a deathliness that saturates life, not an embalming, a resource for human renewal. It is perverse for many reasons, one of which is the fact that as civil society matures, from 1853 to December 1979, when it all went south with Josephine, and as we move historically from the obvious technologies of chattel slavery to universal suffrage, the discourse of human rights, and the concept of universal access to civil society, the anti-Black violence necessary for the elaboration and maintenance of white and non-Black subjectivity gets repressed and becomes increasingly unavailable to conscious as opposed to unconscious speech. I judge people by the quality of their character, as Dr. King said, and not the color of their skin. Or the commonly spoken, at the end of the day, we're all Americans and we're in this together, and other such malarkey of the conscious mind. But the pageantries of naked and submissive Black flesh, pageantries of bleeding backs and buttocks, whip marks, amputations, and faces closed by horse bits, provide evidence of the role sadism plays in the constitution of white subjectivity. And 12 Years a Slave makes this visible on the screen despite its repression in the narrative of both the film and civil society writ large. It is tempting and commonplace to reduce Mary and Edwin Epps's sadism to individual psychopathology. Or one might think that Edwin Epps is one of a group of exceptionally sadistic people who lived in an exceptionally sadistic time and place. But the film, and to an even greater extent, the autobiography, sees, rather than narrates, sadism, the sexual perversion in which gratification is obtained by inflicting physical or mental pain on a love object, not as the individual pathology of a handful of people, but as a generalized condition, generalized in that pleasure as a constituent element of communal life cannot be disentangled from anti-Black violence. Conventionally, the object of sadism can, tomorrow, become the subject of sadism. But the sadism that constitutes the spectacles of 12 Years a Slave, and which constitutes early 19th century society, is not imbued with such reciprocity. The slaves of social death cannot switch places and make Edwin Epps or his equally cruel wife the love objects of their collective sadism. If they did so in private, if Patsy beat Edwin or Mary in a private bedroom encounter, for example, it is because such a reversal was occasioned and allowed. In other words, the master used his prerogative and power to play a different game, one in which he suffers because suffering fulfills his fantasy and because, unlike the slave, his fantasies have objective value. Such role reversals do not imbue the encounter with reciprocity. The changes that begin to occur after the Civil War and up through the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power, and the American election of a Black president are merely changes in the weather, despite the fact that sadism is no longer played out in the open as it was in 1840. Nothing essential has changed. Part 5. Josephine and Cody, and another man I'd never seen before, carried boxes and crates along the side of the house. We heard them go in the side door and up the stairs to Josephine's apartment. We heard them clinking away at whatever it was they had in those boxes, but it started even before that. I once called Cody to fix the plumbing after our standoff in the courtyard. I was in the kitchen. Stella was in her bedroom at the front of the house. Malika was in the back in her room. Cody didn't knock. He didn't ring the bell. He was suddenly behind me in the kitchen. I told him he had to turn around, go back out to the porch, close the door behind him, ring the bell, and wait for me to come let him in. He must have stood there looking at me for no more than 15 seconds, but I knew I aged 15 years. I don't know what made him do it, but he did. He didn't have the look of rage that Josephine had. He had the look of a man who strikes back in his own time. Cody's own time came slowly in drips and drabs. He and Josephine spent more time together, not only upstairs in her apartment, but in the basement, under our dwelling. We could hear them laughing sometimes. Shortly after that, the radiators hissed incessantly, but only at night. When we complained to Cody, he went down to fix them, and he'd pop up to Josephine's flat. In the night, the radiator made popping noises, not hisses anymore. The pipes would sometimes clink and clang for a minute or two, then stop, only to start again in an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours later. Sometime after that was when we saw Cody and Josephine and another man I'd never seen before shuffling down the walkway by the side of the house with the boxes and crates. We listened, our eyes now and then cast up to the ceiling, to the muffled tromp of far more feet than we were used to hearing up there. A day or two later came the muted clang of metal, sounds that were similar but distinct from the noises they had made in the basement when the radiators went berserk. It wasn't long before we felt first heat, then stinging, then slight burning sensations on our skin. We didn't call them burns. Beyond our complaints to one another, we didn't pay attention or seek medical advice until the itching grew into a slightly singed sensation. It seemed most intense at night. A general practitioner told us we needed to see a specialist, and the best in the field, he said, were across the river at the University of Minnesota Medical Center. I called them. They said they were booked for some time. I said, "This is urgent. My name is Frank B. Wilderson III. My father is Vice President for Student Affairs. My partner and I have been told by our GP we should be seen by someone in your department. We were seen within the week. Dr. Vivian Zhao had a full, attractive face, but her smile gave off no more heat than the stars. She could have stamped passports at a border crossing. She examined us separately, then brought us to her office and closed the door. As I recall, she asked us what we did work-wise. She thought we worked with radiation, and she insinuated that there were OSHA standards that had been breached. We don't work with radiation, Stella said. Dr. Zhao implied that Stella was lying because she was afraid of on-the-job retaliation, or worse, because of some misplaced loyalty to her employer. She suggested that Stella and I had a moral obligation to report the radioactive wastes or the misuse of instruments, if not for our sake, then for the sake of our coworkers and the general public. The woman upstairs did this to us, Stella said. Dr. Zhao put her pen down. I could see the gears of other options whirring in her brain. I wanted to stop this before we both ended up in a psych ward. This has been an ordeal. You can see how we're out of sorts, I said, adding we needed time to go home and think about it. I don't understand, said Dr. Zhao. It's a simple question. How were you exposed to radiation? We're a bit confused about the details, I said. I'm not confused, said Stella. There's every indication that you both have been exposed to radioactive material. I'm at a loss as to why scar tissue is on your groin area and why it's on your lower side. We need answers. I told you, he sleeps on his back, I sleep on my side. It's coming from Josephine's apartment upstairs. She works in a lab here at the U. She has access to. Even if she does work in a lab, it's not legal for her to take this material. Stella cut her off. You think we're lying. We'll go home, I said, and iron out the confusing details. What's the matter, Frank? Stella was livid. Are you afraid we'll tarnish your father's reputation? Why would your neighbor do such a thing? Asked Dr. Zhao. You haven't lived, Stella said. The Japanese internment camps didn't teach you a thing. Stella was aware that Zhao was Chinese and not Japanese, but as a child during World War II, Stella had seen how the word menace stuck like Velcro to a color yellow more frequently than it did to a specific ethnicity. At the door, Stella said, Frank drives a cab part-time for Blue and White. I work part-time as a teacher's aide at Marcy Grammar School. He's on general assistance. I'm on welfare. Knock yourself out going after our bosses. You'll find radioactive isotopes in the seat of the cab he drives.
Wow.
Part 6. Our home is on the other side of campus from the hospital. We cut through campus, walking, for the most part, in silence, afraid that any word that we might say to one another will strike like flint on our raw nerves. I don't tell her how I fell for her right over there on the steps of the armory when she told a busload of inductees not to go to Vietnam. We pass Burton Hall, where she once worked with my father. She doesn't say how cute I was when my principal sent me to my father's office for skipping classes or smoking weed in the bathrooms. When we walk through the main gate and across the street to Dinkytown, I don't tell her the stories of days when Bob and I stole horses together up and down the street. When in Dr. Zhao's office, Stella had said, "What's the matter, Frank? Are you afraid we'll tarnish your father's reputation?" She had put her finger on the pulse of a desire to be special that beat inside my heart. In my unconscious, I wanted to latch on to an element of whiteness or humanness, since Dr. Zhao wasn't white, that would set me apart from other blacks. But this desire was deeper than Stella or I suspected at the time. an unconscious wish for my father's prestige, which was as faux as the prestige Solomon thought he had accrued from his skills as an engineer and his talents as a musician, to seep into my being by osmosis. I had dropped his name to get us the appointment. I would drop his name in the weeks and months to come to open other doors as well. This kind of reasoning is universal. But what is not universal, what belongs to Black people and Black people alone, is a deeper desire sparked by a deeper structure of oppression. When you intuit for the first time in your life that you live in a soup of violence that is pre-logical, a kind of violence that is as legitimate if it's wielded by ordinary citizens, such as Josephine, as it is if wielded by sanctioned officers of the law, and that your father's position and prestige are no more the keys to a sanctuary than the position and prestige of someone who is Black and orphaned, you are faced with two choices. Stare unflinchingly at the abyss as it stares unflinchingly at you, or take it out on the Black person near you who won't leave you to your fantasy of being truly alive. Anything to not have to face the fact that your sense of presence is no more than borrowed institutionality. This dynamic, this intra-Black imbroglio, is harder to discern in the 20th and 21st centuries for the simple fact that the personas of the master class are no longer solidified in evil white men and evil white women who wield real whips on a real plantation. The master has been dispersed across the entire racial spectrum of people who are not Black. Dr. Zhao is as much a master as Edwin and Mary Epps, the antagonists in 12 Years a Slave. In fact, the 20th century shot the Eppses through a prism. They are not just people, they are ideas. They are ideas and personas that a young, middle-class Black man like me had consciously fought against to the point of being kicked out of college, while deep in my unconscious, I was a loyal supplicant who cared more about not simply the master's feelings, but the stability of the master's world than I did about my own suffering and the suffering of Stella. It is hard to be a slave and feel that you are worthy, truly worthy, of your suffering as a slave. 127 years before Josephine, before Cody, before Urban Risers, before Dr. Zhao, the rift between Stella and me would have been clearer to see. We wouldn't have walked home in symptomatic silence. Our discord would have been played out in the open. At times, Stella would throw her sense of herself as a being from a special quasi-Black dimension at me the way I threw my father's status and my Dartmouth pedigree at her. She would let me know of the competence exhibited by the white men she had been with and the Jew she had married. She held them up as object lessons that I could never be or learn. That's how most Black couples fight and argue, by firing white and non-Black people at each other. Huh? No, it's more subtle than that. The bullets aren't the white or non-Black people themselves, but the ambiance of recognition and incorporation in a world beyond the plantation. We load our guns with deadly intangibles and shoot straight for the heart. Anyone who thinks 19th century slave narratives are reports on the past isn't paying attention. Such a person will experience the analysis of afro-pessimism as though they are being mugged rather than enlightened. That is because they can't imagine a plantation in the here and now. But afro-pessimism is premised on a comprehensive and iconoclastic claim that Blackness is coterminous with slaveness. Blackness is social death, which is to say that there was never a prior meta moment of plenitude, never equilibrium, never a moment of social life. Blackness as a paradigmatic position rather than as a set of cultural practices, anthropological accoutrements, is elaborated through slavery. The narrative arc of the slave who is Black, unlike Orlando Patterson's generic slave who may be of any race, is not an arc at all, but a flat line, what Hortense Spillers calls historical stillness, a flat line that moves from disequilibrium to a moment in the narrative of faux equilibrium, to disequilibrium restored and or rearticulated. This kind of change, the transformative promise of a narrative arc, belongs to white men and their junior partners in civil society, non-Black immigrants, white and non-Black people who are queer and non-Black women, but only in relation to each other. By transformative capacity, I mean that through struggle, non-citizens, in the legal and libidinal sense of the word, legal being Latinx undocumented immigrants, for example, and libidinal being anyone from a documented immigrant of color to a gay person to a non-Black woman, can become citizens because they are still human. They are simply oppressed and therefore not so fully vested. But their transformative capacity stems not from their positive attributes, but from the fact that they are not Black, they are not slaves. These fully vested citizens and not so fully vested citizens live through intra-communal narrative arcs of transformation. But where the Black is concerned, their collective unconscious calls upon Blacks as props, which they harness as necessary implements to help bring about their psychic and social transformation and to vouchsafe the coherence of their own human subjectivity. Nevertheless, the slave is a sentient being. Therefore, an existence void of transformative promise, which narrative holds out to human subjects, is a painful lesson for the slave to learn, much less accept. I am not suggesting that Black people should resign themselves to the inevitability of social death. It is inevitable in the sense that one is born into social death just as one is born into a gender or a class. But it is also constructed by the violence and imagination of other sentient beings. Thus, like class and gender, which are also constructs, not divine designations, social death can be destroyed. But the first step toward the destruction is to assume one's position, assume, not celebrate or disavow, and then burn the ship or the plantation in its past and present incarnations from the inside out. However, as Black people, we are often psychically unable and unwilling to assume this position. This is as understandable as it is impossible. I was a lot like that when I met Stella. Stella was skeptical about the willingness of the FBI to help us unravel the skeins of aggression that were coming our way, from Josephine and Cody's violence to the violence of whoever did not want Stella to bring her evidence against urban risers to court. Looking back, I realized that I believed that my father had standing in the community, that his position on multiple boards and his vice presidency at the university had somehow imbued us both with human capacity, the capacity to be recognized and incorporated as something other than Black. I had no idea that the FBI had tracked me for 4 years, that there was a file on me, nor did it dawn on me that Stella's social change activism, especially her civil disobedience against the war and her plethora of counterculture and revolutionary friends would militate against our being helped. But those aren't even the fundamental reasons why I should have been skeptical. If the FBI has been tracking Black creative writers since 1919, if the FBI has been constantly updating and revising its lists of Black writers earmarked for preventive detention, concentration camps, if the FBI, like every law enforcement agency in the United States, is organically anti-Black, then where is the line between prison and home? Part 7. Now Stella and I have walked the width of campus from Dr. Zhao's office to Dinkytown without breaking our silence, afraid that any word we might say to one another would strike like flint on our raw nerves. I wanted to show her the steps of the armory where she told a busload of inductees not to go to Vietnam, the exact spot where I, as a 15-year-old boy, fell in love with her. If she wanted to point to Burton Hall, where she worked in the dean's office with my dad, and say how cute I was back then when my principal sent me to my father's office for skipping classes or smoking weed, she too walked in silence and let the moment pass. We crossed the street to Dinkytown. I don't say a word about my best friend Bob and the horses we stole up and down these streets. Our home is in sight when Stella finally speaks. Beside us at the stoplight, a couple expresses their relief that Teddy Kennedy has beaten Jimmy Carter in the Massachusetts Democratic primary. We need a Kennedy, the woman says, as the walk sign flashes, to beat Ronald Reagan. We let them walk ahead of us. Then Stella speaks. We'll send Malika somewhere safe, she says.
All right, we're going to stop it there because the next sections are about the days that they were running, I guess, because it's like day 1, day 2, day 3. So yeah, we're going to stop right there. We only have an hour and 30 minutes of this chapter left. So that'll wrap us up on tomorrow's. You guys can speak. I gotta go get my breakfast. It just came.
Yeah, he definitely didn't understand how things are going when he asked the FBI to help him. After the police was in his home and looked at the books, he should have understood that they won't help him.
I find it funny, not funny, but it's just, what was it? Neely Fuller was saying the same thing as well. Like that whole passage, I'm like, this is very reminiscent of Neely Fuller.
I'm still stuck on being jealous of somebody who's being raped every night.
But that was the MO back then. It's the same thing now.
That's true.
Ain't nothing changed.
Hey, Dream. Yeah, but people want to be friends with them. I don't want to be friends with them. I don't even like them. They get on my nerves.
It really does. Yeah, but my family tell me I'm racist all the time. I don't give a fuck.
Funny thing is, show me how I could use the system.
I know. There's no reward without risk, though.
Yeah. Y'all, I'm gonna eat my
So,
food.
so he was talking about the 12 years a slave, that second half of that chapter.
Yeah, he was
And,
tuning into the behaviors of Josephine and Cody.
hmm yeah. And so he's referencing that to explain, help me out, because you know.
How they the sadism, is that the right word? That they that the pleasure that they got from mistreating black people,
Mm,
the pleasure was in the mistreatment. So now that Josephine had an issue to to be to be mistreating her, she got
mhm.
off. Did I explain that correctly? I think I did.
Okay. Okay. And this book was written when?
Let me see. I might have to ask Siri because um
I mean, the reason I asked this question because I know he's bringing up the book to
okay, so
explain a broader point.
when
I'm
was
just have we reached
Afro-pessimism by Frank B. Wilderson written?
Wilderson 3.
2008.
okay 2008.
It's like he explains the danger of being with white people and being friends and making ourselves less than so they could feel comfortable. But yet you're friends with white people? Like, I don't get it.
I don't get it either. How does that play out in his household? Being
Right. Or these things that he was
friends with white
discovering.
women.
And then he's gonna tell us like how it shows up in his adult. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or he didn't only realize it when he was writing these things down. I don't know.
I mean, the book is quite interesting. So I'm going to continue to show up until we're done with this, so we can have a discussion. I'm going to need to know the whole story and how this applies. I find it hard. I don't trust him. So so I'm struggling a bit, sis.
Yeah.
What's this by again? Oh, my bad. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah. They were trying to starve off the
And this was made in 2008.
Yeah.
written. Yeah.
This low key, he had some points that sound oddly familiar, like nearly fun when you say you don't trust him. I'm like, some of them points kind of sound very familiar.
But the next one after this is going to be Things Fall Apart. This is a short book though. I'm going to show y'all. We have.
What is falling apart about? Oh, you about to tell me? Never mind. I'm sorry.
You good. Let me see. I only have 9 hours left on this book. So.
These motherfucking cops is out here this morning.
Oh, that's what I was doing. Turning this off.
They out here like gangbusters.
So this the next one. Things Fall Apart. And it says, Things Fall Apart tells two overlapping, intertwining stories, both of which center around Okunua, a strong man of Ibu village in Nigeria. Oh, it's another Nigeria one.
Ooh.
Okay. The first of these stories traces Okunukua's fall from grace with the tribal world which he lives, and its classic purity of the lines and economically beauty it provides us with a powerful fable about the immoral. I need to put on my glasses. Immoral conflict between the individual and society. The second story, which is as modern as the first, is ancient and which elevates the book to a tragic plane, concerns the clash of cultures and the deconstruction of Onukwua's world through the arrival of aggressive European missionaries. Oh Lord, is missionaries in this one too?
Oh, I love the misconception of them mofos. You know, they were the spies for the colonizers and the
It says,
they came in and got all the detail, the intel.
mhm.
And would report it back so they could know how to come in and conquer.
Right.
Hey T,
Hold
What
on.
up, bro?
Hold on. These twins' dramas are perfectly harmonized and they are modulated by an awareness capable of encompassing at once the life of nature, human history, and the mysteries uncompulsive of the soul. Things Fall Apart is the most illuminating and permanent monument we have to a modern African experience as seen from within.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Ryan.
What's up, brother Ryan? You wanted to say something? It's too early.
Right? What happened? Maybe you got to mute and unmute again because you
Hey,
unmuted.
Caesar, it's nice to see you over here. You ain't pushing nobody shit in this morning?
Nah, I've been stumping on necks for fun, and then kind of just been doing stuff outside the app. I had to get back to being, a real person.
Well, you're gonna have to define what a real person is to me one
That's
day.
what I'm like, whatever that means.
I mean, touch grass. I can't be virtual anymore. I gotta,
okay, I got you.
I gotta step on necks in real life, but in a different way.
I like stepping on necks in real life, so I know what you mean on that. Oh man, well I am glad you joined us this morning.
Oh no, thanks for having me. This was fun. I want to read this now.
I stumbled across Marlon. I mean, I know Marlon from some other lives, but I stumbled across this one day, and she was reading the autobiography of Asada Shakur, and man, I've been here ever since. Because that was phenomenal, and this one's not too bad, other than the fact that I don't trust him. I don't trust this guy.
I need to join these more. I've been meaning to join, honestly, but yeah, this is fun.
Oh yeah, it's it gets me prepared to go push shit in later.
Yeah.
I think I might be able to turn a Christian. There's this Christian from Nigeria named Challenger, and when he first met me, he called me the devil. And he came on the live yesterday. And he wanted to stop everybody from talking so he could greet his sister. You hear me? Yeah, I might be able to get him. I gotta wake my brothers and sisters up from that sleeping giant. Goodness. I feel like I'm battling on both sides, trying to get my people to understand who they are and where they come from, and also get them out of this religion, which is another tool that white tea people use to keep us submissive and obedient to their will. A lot of work to do, you guys.
Mm-mm. I'm not forcing nobody to do shit.
I didn't say force.
Okay. Okay. That's
I'm
why.
just giving them what they need so they can open up their minds themselves. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I just tell them the facts of how I see it. And, I'm not here to force anybody to do anything. But at the end of the day, we all need to be on code with one another. And we can't do that with these tools in place that are blocking our center so we can understand that these are not our friends.
Mm-hmm.
We're making the same mistakes our ancestors made by still being in proximity of these motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And one of the reasons that we do that is because of religion.
Mm-hmm.
Got us convinced that, they are brothers, we all believe the same, blah, blah, blah. You know what Christians do.
These people literally burn crosses. Like, come on.
Thank you. Oh man, when you bring up the atrocities done by the church, they want you to look back beyond that, and I'm not looking beyond nothing. I don't know where I'm at. I'm lost.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm lost in my own city, so I'll be all right. I'm just driving around. Oh, in the back. Okay.
Kush, you going live?
Yeah, Kush, you stepping on next? I mean, wait,
I'm
hold on.
actually outside. I need some time still because I'm on the way to the Ethiopian restaurant. I'm gonna get some food.
Oh.
And I'm back. I will go live. Yes.
What you going to get? And what you eating, Mark? Y'all making me hungry.
Ethiopian food.
I mean some swimp. I was just smacking on some swimp.
Shrimp in the morning?
I said swimp.
What is that?
You say that there's a time to eat certain foods.
Thank you.
The systematic system of having to have bacon and eggs for breakfast, woman.
Hell, I have.
You can have shrimp. You can have shrimp, Marlon.
I guess. Yeah, shrimp and grits, I guess.
Ain't no grits. Ain't gotta be grits.
But I'm eating avocado and egg with tomato toast on ciabatta.
Girl, you sound
Hey,
white.
you know what you got. You know what you got to do for us though.
No.
You know what you got to do for us.
If I've ever heard of it.
Look,
Bland ass, non-seasoned ass vegetable.
and look, what time we gonna eat? What time? Well, not talking about eating. What time we gonna get back on this book?
What you mean? You stepped away. You already missed it. What are you talking about?
No, I didn't. I had you on pause. I was listening.
Love it. Are you an agent of the white supremacy?
Who they talking about? Who asked you that?
I'm going to ask the people. No one asked me that.
Hey, what time go forward? Back, I mean.
November the 2nd, I think.
I thought it was this month.
I just told you when it was.
I said I thought it was this month. I know you just
said,
did.
But I didn't told you what it was. So
why
would I argue you on anything other than what I just told you?
Don't let me at the reach now.
Well, I mean, if you can reach. just know, I grew up with brothers, and I throw these hands. Okay,
you throw they're a little slow.
I'm short and quick though.
Them hands don't move like they used to.
No, I'm still pretty quick.
Hey, I won't play with
What's
that.
that damn? Sitting here talking about that. You know that damn girl. I can't think of her damn name. Want to fight Ali. That girl crazy as hell. I wouldn't even fight.
Jelly Bean. I feel like that would have been Jelly Bean. Was it Jelly Bean?
No, Clarissa Shields.
Jelly Bean seemed like the kind that throw hands. You know what I mean? Oh man. Yeah, I guess I'm getting accidental exercise this morning. God damn it.
I might make me some crabs later.
Some crabs.
Shit, you can have that this morning. What you talking about?
I do eat crab for breakfast. I've done it. So
Shit, I wake up in the middle of the night and have me a bowl of cereal in a heartbeat.
okay, cuz. I'm tired.
Oh, you just had a rough week. That's all. You just gonna play catch up this weekend.
Listen, I love avocado. Okay?
I don't care for that now. You can keep that.
I love avocado. I eat some avocado with some pickles. Man.
With some what?
Pickles.
What's that?
It's like, you ever heard of Jamaican hot pepper sauce?
Yeah, I guess.
Nah, it's kind of like that. You take cabbage, carrots, and you soak it in vinegar with some Scotch bonnet, and you season it, and just let it sit. And it's like hot sauce, but it's way better.
That don't sound good. It sound hot.
Very hot.
They ain't gonna pay. I ain't gonna pay for it going in, and damn sure pay for it coming out. You can keep that. Ooh.
You get used to it. It's so good. And then I know when I'm used to it when I just start eating out the jar, because it takes a while for you to build up your tolerance.
You like a lot of hot, spicy foods, don't you?
I do.
You and my twin sister getting along. I told you, no, thank you.
I like hot food. I like spicy. I like it hot where I can still taste my food. You know, the Indian dishes, they'll be too hot. You can't taste nothing. That's stupid to me.
If you like hot stuff that much, I'd love to see you try that damn what's that hot chip taste taste test?
Oh, the one chip.
The chip challenge. Yeah. See if you can handle that chip challenge.
No, that's just stupid. What's the point of that?
I agree with you. But hell, people do a lot of dumb shit.
Yeah. That don't mean I gotta join them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Like I said, I like my food hot to taste, not hot not to taste. And I had an Indian dish one time. I couldn't even, I forgot what I was eating. It was just so peppery. What is this? You ate that chip, Jazzy? Why would you do your stomach like that?
Not your stomach, your mouth. Think your mouth ain't gonna be raw after that? No.
She said she saw Jesus' foot.
I've never tried that. I thought about it myself.
You just think of all the poison they put to make it that hot.
That's the insanity behind that. Being a kid with flaming hot Cheeto dust was bad enough. Nah, this is insane.
Y'all remember hot fries?
Yes.
We don't like that though
anymore.
I didn't like hot fries.
But people do any damn thing just to have content. Let me explain. Look, there's such thing as good content and just stupidness. I'm not gonna do anything just to get a click. I just can't do it.
I don't think the old school hot fries was poison. If you eat it on a cold day.
Well, hey, look, wait a minute. What hot fries were you thought I was talking about? I like the hot fries we grew up on.
That's what I'm saying. It's not the old school hot fries. I'm talking about that chip. That's poison.
Yeah, I would eat that crap. Damn tongue all purple, teeth purple.
See, this is a good Haitian breakfast right here. Let me show you. We'll watch it again.
Oh.
And that's hot.
No, that's not hot. See, but you see the banana, the zaboka, tomat. That's breakfast.
Is that plantain on there on the side of that?
Yeah, that's banana.
Banana or plantain?
Banana. It's plantain, but it's banana. I'm giving you the Haitian name, banan.
Okay, I can't eat that.
Avocado, zaboka.
I'll
Mm-hmm.
eat the eggs and the ham and the orange juice and the tomato. I'll eat that, but the rest of it you can keep it.
Yeah. My mama likes eating banan like that. I don't. I like it sweet banan. I don't like the green one. Whew. All right, y'all. I'm about to go lay down, catch up for the week that I just had.
You gonna go lay down on the food you just ate?
You have a good one, Marlon.
All right, I'll see y'all in these streets.
Maryland, go take
And
you an
I
hour walk
and
before
I
you
owe
lay down
you
on that food.
I still owe you that battle, so I
Oh
got
yeah,
it.
you do. Yeah, you do. But I'm
Hey
in my
yo,
busy season
hey,
now, so
hey
I
yo.
probably, huh?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm in my busy season for work right now. I probably won't be able to do it till like December
Oh yeah,
What time
that
tomorrow morning?
that could
7.
be
All right.
arranged. I've had that stupid song stuck in my head.
Oh no, see, I done got it out and I'm not even gonna think about it, try to remember it. You're welcome, y'all. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.